everywhere, right? My whole pocket's good. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
This is for you.
My husband and daughter are disciplined, obsessed. They have stash.
That's for you.
Thank you.
We're going to see Laurie Brandon.
She's here. I don't think Frank's gonna be here either.
Imagine I'll cross paths with him at some point.
We'll see him before he's gone, right? We have to. I think he's gonna be at the October 31st shop for sure. From what?
I'll move around. I'll leave this up here. This is where she's sitting. Keith, I think you've earned that all the support you give in the fire department. So it's our 30th anniversary, and I guess I'm trying to recognize anybody that supported us at all in the last 30 years.
I love it.
I'm trying to do that. Thank you.
I'm happy with my brother here, but save him for somebody better.
That seems like a loaded statement.
Right? I was going to say something, but
All right, you can start your.
too easy. It's too easy.
So
I have quite a few. I said I'll have quite a few. I say like maybe 8 or 9. My brother, he loves it.
it's gonna drive me crazy when I think this guy's name. I don't know if he was like actually with.
You better be on the committee.
I don't
Trust you, but I just wanted to make sure you get this. This is our 30th anniversary.
Thanks.
For all council members.
Really nice guy.
Just want to
He loves these.
thank you for all the things that you do.
Good old boy.
Ashton and Kyle are like obsessed with collecting them. They love them. I might keep this one out. They're gonna be bad.
That's great. 70's the new 50.
Open your
There you
tray.
go. 60's the new 40. I turn 40 next year. That's the new 30.
Oh wait, why is there two of these?
Oh, I had one. Just make sure it's not yours. The notes. Right. Yes. I put it down while I was.
Oh, it's okay. All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is our October 12th, 2023 regular council meeting. Laurie, can I get roll call?
Mayor Young,
Here.
Vice Mayor Brandon,
Here.
Councilmember Deambra, Councilmember Painter,
Here.
Councilmember Sartori.
Here.
Okay, and the invocation and pledge will be led by Vice Mayor Brandon.
If everyone could bow their heads, please. Father, we ask you tonight for your strength, your guidance, and all the faith you can give us when we make the best decisions we can for our village of Tequesta residents. Please watch over those who are protecting us near and far, and make sure you guide our youth as they make decisions, as they grow. Thank you again for all the blessings that you give upon this village and all the gifts you give all of us in life. We are grateful and thank you for your guidance. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, start out with presentations. Our first presentation tonight is from Councilmember Sartori on a Veterans Monthly Coffee event.
Thank you. The gentleman's going to present to us tonight is Kevin O'Brien. He's from the Marine Corps League here locally. Kevin will do a presentation, and I've just got some follow-up comments on something that Kevin approached the village about, and me personally, and I wanted to bring him in to talk to us. So, Kevin.
Thank you very much. If we can play the video, I am with the Marine Corps League, as Rick said, but this is kind of let you know what we're all about. Very short video.
Join the Marine Corps League today. Contact us at tribe@mcleague.org for more information.
Thank you. Marine Corps League was founded in 1923. We're 100 years old this year, and we are a veteran service organization. We're actually chartered by Congress in 1937. So when Rick and I spoke a while ago, we wanted to do something for the veterans in Tequesta and all over Palm Beach County. So I'm starting north. I'm going to work my way south because we cover all of Palm Beach County. We want to do coffee with a veteran. Much like coffee with a cop and all that is done quite successfully, we want to do the same thing. And I know there's between 7, 8, maybe 9 coffee shops throughout the village of Tequesta. We want to be able to do this once a month, perhaps have some folks come out and join us 2 hours here, 2 hours there to be able to serve coffee, have some veterans come out and talk to veterans. We also have people from Palm Beach County veteran service organizations that can come out and talk specifically about veterans' issues, concerns, dealing with the VA hospital, which is a quagmire in and of itself, dealing with the red tape, trying to get our veterans the assistance and the help that they need at the Veterans VA hospital as well. So it's a very laid-back environment, having coffee, talking about veterans affairs, veterans things that we're going to be doing as the Marine Corps League here in Palm Beach County. And we'd like to invite the village of Tequesta to partner with us. Hopefully come on out and have coffee and talk to the people here about what we can do for them and for the veterans. And that's it really in a nutshell.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
When Kevin approached me, I thought it's so consistent with kind of what we have already done and what we do with the Chili Cook-Off and the Wounded Warriors and the Honor Flight and the Gold Star. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity also for us to promote in a different venue where we can get the public to come out and join. And when we set the schedule, we are going to rotate. So we'll go to Oceana and Carve and give everybody the opportunity to showcase their business. I will do the first one. I'll be the first host, if you will. I am going to cover the cost of the coffee for our veterans that are there. And if it gets too much, then I think it's a great opportunity for us to maybe even look at some of our discretionary funds if it gets too much. But I want to cover that. I think it'd be great if on a monthly basis, if your schedule allows it, for each of our council members to do that. If you have a desire to, or if you would like to do that. But I would like to see us move forward with this. And since Kevin came and gave his presentation, with the council's approval, I would like to see if we could promote the event the week prior in our weekly blast that goes out. But I think we should have the council or the staff's approval to do that. But I just appreciate Kevin coming out and taking the time and letting us be aware and keeping in the forefront the issues that our veterans go through. Thank you for what you do, Kevin.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of me or? Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the next item on the agenda is a proclamation proclaiming October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month.
So was there any objection to doing
Oh,
that, to
I'm sorry.
sponsoring that event? And when we say sponsor, make sure that the council is aware that we'll put it out in the weekly blast. We can put it on our calendar. That's typically how we've handled things of that nature. And you'll see one with the Pie It Forward event. That's how we've handled it in the past.
So I just want to be clear, can we take action on a presentation? That's why we
Okay,
got
we
to
can-
workshop it.
If
See if you can guide us on
council
that.
consensus would be sufficient in this case, so as long as nobody objects, I would accept council consensus, and that would be direction for staff to move forward with that.
And is the consensus on just the first one, or what are we going to move forward with?
I would say their vision is to do it during the season, so probably for like 4 or 5 months. And after the first one, we might have to reboot, and they might need to regroup as the Marine Corps League. So we can go forward with the first, if that's what everybody's comfortable with, give it a shot, see how it goes. And then if it's good feedback and it's not a stress on staff to do this, I think that we would at least agree to one. so that we can see what the process is, if that process does work, and what the feedback from the public is and our residents. That's what I would look for.
Any comments from council?
I don't object. I think it's great starting point. I would actually like to see it go further if it goes well. I would like to see maybe at least one at a happy hour time so kids can go and meet our veterans and see what they do and inspire them.
Okay, good feedback. I'll mention them, Kevin.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
good start, but
Yeah.
that's later down the road.
I think it's a great idea, and I agree. Let's do one and then see how it goes, and then we can decide to proceed with more, or maybe another format, or whatever we think will work, and what they'd be willing to work with us on.
Okay. As the dates come back, I'll make sure it gets to Jeremy and be shared with council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So with that consensus for the first event, that's fine. We would need to bring back subsequent events for
Okay.
for additional subsequent action. But
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, all right, now moving on to agenda item 2, proclamation proclaiming October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Laurie?
Whereas October 2023 marks the 78th anniversary of National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Whereas the purpose of National Disability Employment Awareness Month is to educate about disability employment issues and celebrate the many and varied contributions of America's workers with disabilities. Whereas the history of National Disability Employment Awareness Month traces back to 1945, when it started as a week and focused only on people with physical disabilities. And whereas later it expanded to a full month, and its name and scope evolved to acknowledge the importance of increasing the workforce inclusion of people with all nature of disabilities. Whereas workplaces welcoming the talents of all people, including people with disabilities, are a critical part of our efforts to build an inclusive community with strong economy. And whereas activities during this month will reinforce the value and talent people with disabilities add to our workplaces and communities, and affirm Tequesta's commitment to an inclusive community that increases access and equity for all, including individuals with disabilities. Whereas since 1994, Best Buddies has successfully placed thousands of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities in competitive integrated employment. And now therefore, Mayor Molly Young, by virtue of the authority vested in her, does hereby proclaim October 2023 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month in the village of Tequesta.
Thank you. Some gentlemen here would like to speak tonight.
Hello, my name is Torrance Bostic. I'm a program manager at Best Buddies, and I'd like to introduce David DePerry from Jupiter High School. He's going to say a few words about National Disability Employment Awareness Month.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. As he said, my name is David DePerry, and I'm the Vice President of Best Buddies at Jupiter Community High School. So I'm here to talk about something near and dear to our hearts, National Disability Employment Awareness Month, or NDEAM. This observance, held annually in October, is a movement to recognize and celebrate the significant contributions of workers with disabilities in the workforce. In the grand tapestry of our society, every individual brings a unique set of skills, talents, and perspectives to the table. Yet, for those with disabilities, accessing employment opportunities has historically been challenging due to misconceptions and barriers. NDEAM aims to change this narrative, promoting inclusivity and equal opportunities for everyone. Now, why does Best Buddies celebrate NDEAM with such enthusiasm and passion? At the core of Best Buddies' mission is the belief that everyone deserves the chance to live a fulfilling life, which includes meaningful employment. We celebrate NDEAM because it aligns seamlessly with our commitment to creating a world where individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities have not just a seat at the table, but an active role in the workplace. For those unfamiliar with Best Buddies, we're a global movement dedicated to fostering one-to-one friendships, integrated employment, and leadership development for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Through our programs, we've witnessed firsthand the transformative power of employment. It's not just about earning a living, it's about dignity, independence, and the realization of dreams. Celebrating NDEAM is our way of shining a spotlight on the incredible capabilities and potential of individuals with disabilities. It's a call to action, urging businesses, organizations, and communities to break down barriers and create environments that embrace diversity. Best Buddies is proud to be at the forefront of this movement, advocating for inclusive workplaces where everyone, regardless of ability, can thrive and contribute meaningfully. So, as we navigate through this National Disability Employment Awareness Month, let's not just applaud the accomplishments of individuals with disabilities, but commit ourselves to creating a future where every person, regardless of their abilities, can pursue their passions and contribute to the workforce. I've seen firsthand the impact this organization has on its members every day, and I cannot be more grateful for how it's helped me grow not only as a person, but as a leader. Best Buddies has changed me for the better, and I sincerely hope that I can continue to participate in this organization and create friendships that will last a lifetime. Thank you for your time, and let's continue to champion inclusivity and equality in all facets of our lives.
Thank you, and I am a graduate of Jupiter High, so go Warriors. We're happy to support this proclamation and mission. The world is, truly missing out without being able to receive the gifts of everyone's innate skill sets and talents. So thank you for being here today.
If you know anybody with a disability that needs a job or job training, you can contact us on bestbuddies.org and look up the job section and refer them to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wonder if we should mention it, item 16.
Do we need to?
Just for public.
Okay. So I need to get another approval on the agenda. I know it's been removed from our agenda already, but for public record, we are removing the previous item 16. This is ordinance number 12-23. I don't think it was an ordinance, was it?
It is an ordinance.
It was an ordinance, okay. Ordinance number 12-23, the property owner is out of town and had made the request to postpone. So can I get a motion with that revision, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, can I get a motion?
Let's make sure we didn't have any public comment on any consent agenda items.
Excuse me?
I was just saying, let's make sure we didn't have any comment cards for any consent agenda items.
We usually don't do that. Do we have any?
I'm just asking if anybody submitted a comment card for a consent agenda item. No, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now moving on to communications from citizens. Laurie, do you have any cards tonight? It's just me.
Harold Taylor.
Harold.
Harold Taylor, 13 Chapel Court. Give me a second to find my notes here. Occasionally, we give either individual citizens or companies and groups plaques to recognize their work. I would like to suggest 2 organizations or people that deserve a plaque. First one, Jose Rodriguez of your building department. He essentially saved the village of Tequesta's building department when he was first hired. Everything is now documented. Before that, this village destroyed almost all records that were 7 years old. So if you have to do a repair or add something, you have no idea what was done. All I could do when I had to repair a wall was, like Jose said, tear off the stucco and part of the wall and see what was done. That's the difficult way to do it. Thank God he now saves everything. Permits, drawings, photographs. That's the way it should be run. and he saved this village's building department. Second one, people have talked about this building on US 1 called at 691 US 1. Color schemes being criticized a few times because of the black and the white building. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is the bulk of the building. When it was first built before the landscaping started, it just looked awful. I think we ought to give a recognition plaque to the architect who did the landscaping design. By far, it's the best landscaping design in the village. It also breaks up the bulk look of that building. It looks pretty good now, no matter what anybody says. You drive by and all the palm trees and other trees and the short landscaping put in the front of that building changed the whole building completely. It looks halfway decent now. Somebody ought to congratulate this guy. He's a genius. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saylor.
Les Gelber. Okay. Travis Johnson.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Travis Johnson. I live at 68 River Drive. Forgive me, this is my first time doing something like this, but I don't know how aware the council is. I have one of the storm drains that DeQuesta owns has broke, and there's water flowing through the top of it, and it's an open hole in the side of my yard. I've been talking with David. I'm not sure. I think he's in charge of the utility side. He had a great plan. I guess there's a system where because this has already happened to me once, they came in, tore out the whole side of my yard, had to put well points in, a backhoe, like major operation. My fence, I had to buy all new stuff. The new way he's talking about is gonna, it like lines the pipe, I guess, and it's way less intrusive. But I guess in talking to him, it's like, well, I guess maybe next month we can have some bids, and then maybe by the end, I guess December, January, I'm getting it fixed. And I was hoping by coming here today, I could kind of see like what's going on, because it's like an open hole in the side of my yard, you know. It's kind of a liability thing as well, you know, like God forbid a kid gets over there or somebody like mowing the lawn, you know. And right now all it is a couple cones with caution tape around it. So
I know exactly where that is.
you
Now you say that.
You know, anybody that goes down River Drive, that's what's going on over there. Like, you know, if you go over there, you could, you know, mess yourself up getting sucked around in there. Down to the storm drain. Even the guys that scoped it were like, you know, how long has it been like that? I'm like, months, you know. So I'm coming here in hopes that maybe I could shed some light. I don't know, there's like emergency, like, hey, can we vote to get this going? Because it's an obvious problem. He sounds pretty confident that this is the fix. So, like I said, hopefully coming here today, I could, you know, maybe help me fix the hole in the side of my yard. So.
Okay, Travis, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I know we really value customer service here. It's a really big deal to us. So, Jeremy, is this something we can, you know, address immediately, and then you can keep council apprised?
Yeah, if you will meet with Marjorie Craig afterwards, she can fill you in on whatever update, and then I will get an update from her, and I'll make sure council's fully informed on the process. But Marjorie Craig is your utility director. She's actually over David, and she does a lot of the bidding for any of the projects. She'll be able to give you a full update of that.
All right, thank you.
And then you can, afterwards, if you need to reach council, if you go to our website, you can email each of us individually, or there's a link where you can email all of us at the same time if you need to reach us again after this.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.
Les Gelber.
Hello, and I want to thank the utility department, because they've been terrific, you know, throughout the community, and they're doing jobs that I don't envy, oversight, and especially being in that industry. I'm Les Gelber. I have two properties within the village, one on Point Drive, but within the village jurisdiction, and I have an adjacent property to Travis Johnson at 72 River Drive. I've actually pulled children out of the hole. It's an attractive nuisance. We're talking at times it's 41 inches deep. This is not a little hole, it's 41 inches deep. And I would understand making a foxhole out of it or something like this, but children are playing in it. Having caution tape around it is at least an alert to somebody, and theoretically to the landscaping crews, but not always, because they get close, and it's a creeping crevice. So as these things continue to deteriorate, you have sod on top of it, you don't realize there's no earth below it. So it's a dangerous situation, and I was kind of curious, and I know the council has been flexible in working with people in situations like this. Is there a protocol for dealing with an attractive nuisance or potentially an emergency situation? I imagine there is for something that you can't, it has to be addressed not in the normal sequence of things. That was my question to the council, and I don't want to reiterate everything that Mr. Johnson has said because he's more articulate than I am, but there must be a protocol for dealing with situations like that, and we can take it up privately with the utility department if that's your preference.
Yeah, again, thank you for coming and bringing this to our attention. We, of course, don't like to hear these kind of things, but I know from a safety protocol, I know we do have internal safety protocols that staff is supposed to follow. So again, Jeremy, can we make sure this is addressed immediately? And then, again, please reach out to us, after this if more action is needed.
Okay, well, and thank you for all you do for the village, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Angelo.
Hi there.
Amy?
It's been so long. Amy Angelo, I live at 19001 Southeast Barris Drive, just outside the village, but I have two businesses within the village, as you all know. I'm not really sure the correct forum to bring this up, but I wanted to bring it to your attention and make a request that we revisit the option of restricting formula businesses in the village. And I know this has been discussed through emails and various options of how we could look at tailoring something that suits the village of Tequesta and the future of what the village of Tequesta looks like. I know that there would have to be a vote to revisit the letter that has already been written by the attorney for the village. So I'm not sure where or how we start that process, so I'm just making a request that we do revisit it, and if it goes on to a future agenda possibly, I'd love to give a presentation on why I think this is so valuable and important to the village.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So do you have anything else to add before, because I don't want to take up your time?
Nope.
Okay. I think this would be a matter where we would need to workshop it. So is this a topic that council would want to workshop in the future?
I'm okay with that.
The overlay for the code?
Specifically formula businesses.
Then
Correct.
So we'd be revisiting that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Specifically on the US 1 corridor? Or?
We already had that
general.
laid out.
Yeah.
As a
Okay.
T.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay workshopping it with everybody else.
Yeah, I think it's important enough that our local business community, they're going through enough right now with the bridge, and I think absolutely we should sit down and talk about it. And it's a bigger issue than just having a workshop, but we can at least talk about it, and the public can be aware of it as well, so we can get a lot of input that way.
My only request is if we workshop it again, that we also have updates from the state on what they are allowing and not allowing for municipalities to do with those.
Right.
Yeah. That way we're up to date
We'll
on
have that in
Thank
consideration.
you.
Okay, so staff will let you know when we have that on the workshop agenda. I don't know if it'll be the October 30th, but I would think for sure the one after that. So we will let you know.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks. All right, any other cards? No? Any other communications from the citizens? All right, moving on. Communications from council?
Yeah, I'll go first. Just one thing, and it happened to me twice in the last week, so I brought it to the attention of Jeremy. And number one, I was impressed with the speed of which our village jumped on it. But I was turning left I was coming north right outside Oceana Coffee, north to turn left on Tequesta Drive to head home. And as I was the first light, I was the first car. As I turned left, the lights and the arm came down simultaneously. And it caused a little bit of a panic, admittedly. And I thought, wow, that's odd. You'd think the lights would flash first to give you a heads up, but the arm came down where I had to make an immediate stop or accelerate. I had to make a decision to do that. And I thought, I came home, and I went home, I told my wife about it, and I was like, God, I don't know if it was me, but I've never noticed it. Well, toward the end of the week, I was coming in off of over the bridge, turning left on the Riverside Drive, and the car in front of me was a landscape truck with a big trailer full of stuff. He was, as soon as light turned green, he accelerated, and the same thing happened with the lights and the arms came down, what I thought to be way too fast with no lead time. And he had to stop, so I had to stop. So now we've got a traffic jam in the middle of the in the middle of the busy, terribly busy intersection. So I brought that to Jeremy's attention, and Doug and everybody went right to Brightline, and they were out within 24 hours. I don't know if we heard a resolution or what they were looking at, but I just want to thank, number one, it concerned me because if it happened to me twice in a week, I know it's happening to other people. And I want to, again, congratulate our village for just tremendous turnaround time. And I was impressed that Brightline had a team on site to look at it. Now, I haven't heard anything back yet. Jeremy, have you heard on that?
I haven't heard of the resolution, but I mean, I was out there on site, and everything seemed to be working properly. So I know they were out there working on it. I'm assuming it was a fix. They just didn't follow up.
It just seemed like the lights should flash a little bit before the arms come down. And the arms came down, I thought, at an excessive rate of speed. So it spooked me. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's happened to me.
Thank you to Brightline. Hopefully we'll get some information back on that, but more so to our amazing staff that was on it right away and had Brightline out there within 24 hours. So thank you.
I think they're working out some glitch. I've had that same exact situation at Riverside, which is not us, so it's Jupiter, and then I've seen some glitches at Indiantown Crossing as well. So I think it seems like multiple crossings are having some glitches. But thank you for bringing that to staff's attention for sure.
Yeah, that's happened to me as well. I think I accelerated, which I don't know if
I did
that was
too.
the right move, but I did. I wasn't really going to bring this up, but it's more of and it's not in our jurisdiction, but more of a question, I guess. So the bridge, the railroad bridge at the US 1, or at the alternate 1A bridge, it was always my understanding that it could not be down for more than like 30 minutes or something like that. And I recently had a situation, I know this is out of our jurisdiction again, but just something I think we need to figure out, where I was with both my kids, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we got stuck there for like an hour and a half, and it was like 3 trains that went by, and it never went up once. And luckily there wasn't an emergency or anything like that, other than missing naps, which for my wife was an emergency. So I just think it's something we need to kind of look into, because it's happened to me a few times, mostly once without the kids, but if there were a real emergency, I think it could create some real issues, because there's really nowhere, I mean, you could take your boat somewhere else and figure out how to get on land and go from there, but, and I might have made up that 30-minute thing, but somebody had told me that at some point, but it could create a big safety issue, so just throwing that out there.
Was it by car or boat?
I was in my boat.
Because you can't go under when it's down.
No, I know, that's the problem, is you get stuck. And if you're on the opposite side and you were trying to get home, like your kid's having a reaction or something, I don't know, but it was down for a solid hour 45.
Yeah, I know. We had, could you maybe recirculate the original data? Because we had data and all that and how often it should be closed. And then I know they raised that one section higher. I don't know the height of boats that can go under that one section.
If you have a T-top, you can't get
under it.
Yeah.
So maybe just recircle that data so we can see what it was and then go from there.
That's all I got.
Awesome. EAC is discussing how to implement more recycling opportunities in the village. Basically, how do we get more recycling receptacles around, because the ones we do have, like at Tequesta Park, do have a volunteer that is monitoring those and helping out with those. So they are just figuring out logistically how can we get it better, even in Constitution Park. There was something else. To our staff, who is out at El Portal pretty much daily, if not all day, I want to say thank you, because it's very nice to see you guys are out there and making sure that that construction team is doing their best to finish that as quickly as possible and get moving, because it's not convenient. So I appreciate their time going out and keeping tabs on that. And thank you to the clerk for trying her best to update the residents on all these closures, even though some of the closures are pop-ups and sudden. So thank you. That is it.
Okay. Just a couple quick updates. I think you guys know about some of them, but last week I spoke at the Martin County Legislative Delegation meeting to get support, garner support for our appropriation request for Tequesta Park. Councilmember Sartori and village manager were there to support me as well, which was great. And I do want to say I've ran into both of our legislators since then, and they are very pleased that we have matching funds this year. So I want to thank council again for considering and moving forward with setting some matching funds aside, because I think you could make a big difference this year. Fingers crossed. And then we had our Florida League of Cities State Policy Committee meetings last Friday. I was up there with the manager and clerk. Most of the committees kind of decided on what their policy positions and priorities were going to be. So the last meeting, I think it's December 1st. Do you guys remember the date? It's either like very end of November, beginning of December. So that's kind of where we just wordsmith the positions, and then you guys will see those go out for all the committees. October 27th, I am speaking to our Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation with the League of Cities on those policies and priorities, and it's just it's a really great collaborative session with all of the Palm Beach County delegation, so they know what our priorities are. We can work with them in advance, to protect home rule and make sure that the municipality can continue making the best decisions for their constituents. That's all I got. Okay, moving on, standing reports, village attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let the council know, on October 27th at the Palm Beach TPA offices, there's going to be an affordable housing symposium. I'll be one of the panelists on the topic regarding the legal framework of the Live Local Act. So that should be interesting. And the symposium covers the legal framework of the Live Local Act, transportation issues. Treasure Coast is going to be speaking and moderating on local government approaches to dealing with Live Local Act, and then there will be some information from different housing providers as well, both nonprofit and for-profit. So that should be an interesting symposium. I'll certainly let you know how it goes. That's my report.
Can you repeat the date?
October 27th. It starts at 8 o'clock and it goes all day. It's at the TPA offices in downtown West Palm Beach.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for the attorney? All right, moving on. Village manager.
One of my notes was to remind everybody that the trains have picked up, but since we've kind of tasked that already, but they are full service now. I forget the number of times they're going through, maybe like 30 times a day that is crossing. And then the El Portal was brought up. I think we're roughly around 25% done, but we will start seeing that project pick up now that we've crossed to the south side of El Portal. I know we'll have a closure on the lane once or twice still, but once we get over there and get through that, I think it's going to really start picking up. So, and then lastly, I just want to personally thank Jose Rodriguez for his service to the village. He did start here in 2015 as an inspector, plans examiner, and then as an assistant building director. In 2017, he became the full-time building official. Jose has done so much for that building department, as Mr. Harold had said. He's brought structure and process to the department that we're missing from an organization. We look for creativity and thoughtful solutions. Jose is usually the first in line and sends me an email within minutes of looking for something like that. So while we're here, while he's been here, there's been several code challenges that he's tackled head on. During COVID, Tequesta was a leader in still providing inspections virtually so projects could keep moving. Jose has served on the Palm Beach County Building Officials Committee to draft language for the milestone inspections. That's a statewide, code. There are many examples of these types of things Jose has done. His greatest legacy is his team that he's built while he's been here in the department. Commented, probably the most out of any department in the village. So everyone always hopes to leave a positive impact on the community they serve. I can say that Village of Tequesta is better because of Jose's services here. So while we look forward to the new chapter bringing a familiar face back into the building department as the building director, Jose's presence will be missed. So I just wanted to thank him publicly for that. With that, you have my report.
Any questions or comments? Okay. I just have a quick question. I know we received the kind of our first big update on the foot traffic from Business Flare. Can you just kind of give an update on what staff's doing with any of the recommendations?
So we're diving into some of those recommendations. Some of those things we're already doing. I think there was a question about the actual locations. We're asking them to look at the additional requests for the shopping centers, and then we're implementing some of those things. I know with our shop VOT and our the new kind of twist that we're putting on it with the scavenger hunt, we have reached out to businesses. I think we've only got 2 responses. So I mean, we're trying to do some different things which are on those recommendations. We were already leaning forward, so we are trying to work through those recommendations on that list.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, moving on. Police Department.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. You have my monthly report, just a couple of things I want to highlight. First is the National Night Out that we had last Friday. It was very well attended. It was great partnership with outside agencies as they brought out their equipment, as well as many volunteers. I publicly want to commend Lieutenant Smolin, who honestly spearheaded the whole thing and did a phenomenal job. So thank you all who were able to make it. We introduced a new officer this week. Former Chief John Pruitt from Jupiter and Lake Colony has joined the police department. He's going to be a great addition to the department with all his experience and his passion. So we look forward to great things with him. Yesterday, I don't know if you all had seen missing diver that was out on the waters. Just so you know, we had one of our officers, Corporal Hoisrack, go out there and assist with that recovery as well. So fortunately, the diver was found by FWC, so it was a great ending. But part of why we train and how we train is to have people at the ready, and Corporal Horsback was able to get on the Marine unit and go out there and assist Jupiter, PBSO, FWC, and the Coast Guard. So, and then the last thing, Pastor Paul and Assistant Chief McGrew just got back today from a 2-day seminar in regards to mental wellness for officers. They were in Miami. We're looking to possibly bring that program not only to the Village of Tequesta, possibly all Palm Beach County officers. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I only have one comment.
Yes.
Did you know that canines actually contribute a ton of serotonin and mental health healing if only spent 10 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. That was all.
You'll take that into consideration, right?
I'm going to try every time.
All right, next up, Fire Department.
A friendly one. Not Eric.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Village Council, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney, and our village clerk. You have my report. I'm going to also go over some of the highlights of it. But before I start that, again, to Jose Rodriguez, I know he's not in the room today, but I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for the great working relationship we've had over the years. He's done a lot to bring our 2 departments closer together so that we work well together. So I want to see that continue as he moves on. On the month, of course, we started out our month with the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. And again, I think that was well attended, and again, it's something that near and dear to my heart that I want to see continue forever and ever. We said we would never forget, so we should never forget. The fire department did some hiring, so we went through our hiring process, and we did written exams on September 15th, and then we did oral boards on the 25th. That led to conditional offers going out to 2 firefighters. On your report, I know it'll say they'll start tomorrow. That's actually going to be Monday. There was one more part we have to add in because we have a new piece of equipment out there, and I want to see them climb all the way to the tip. So that's now part of our hiring process. So they're going to climb to the tip. They're also going to do a swim test And while I expect both of them to pass, I think it's important that we vet the people all the way, that there's no issues with either of those things. Floodwater. We did a floodwater class here just recently, so 3 days of that. We got 8 or 9 of our firefighters through, but we also got several village employees through it. It was very basic training, and I think that was important because that addresses those monsoons that we get that pop up out of nowhere. And I've mentioned this before, I think in front of council. If you go back to October of last year, the monsoon that hit, while police and fire was out there pulling people out of cars, so was public works, so was utilities. They're already out there. They see it first. So we want to make sure everybody is operating safely. So that's what that class was about, as well as serving as a bridge between our dive team and our non-divers. So that's the direction. You'll see us repeat that class here in the future. We also did an elevator class. It's elevator rescue, but it was also elevator operations. So a lot of people don't know this, but you know, we have a high-rise fire. We take over. We do something called lobby control, and a lot of that has to do with the elevators. Firefighters in one set, people moving down in the other, taking over one stairwell. So all that has to be coordinated. This allows for that type of training, as well as the standard, how do we get you out of the elevator if you get stuck in one? So a little bit of both. Now I don't know who had control of the pictures, but I'm going to bounce to October 2nd, and I believe all of the pictures that we had up there were of the fire department's birthday. So we could just stop. That was our announcement. We'll stop with the first one. So that's the history of the fire department. So that was the old Public Works building. And when I reported for duty in 1993, I looked at the picture on the right, which was live for me at that point, and I went, what exactly did I get myself into? Anyway, we turned that into a fire department, and if you can flip to the next picture, next slide, shows some of the old apparatus. And I think if you keep going, we'll end up with a bunch of pictures of some of the guys. That's Lieutenant Bill Davis. He was with us back in '93. That's the first ladder truck, the one we just replaced. And then, of course, top left is James Winan, you know, basically the godfather of the fire department. He helped build it. He was the first fire chief. He taught us pretty much everything, and without him, we wouldn't be here. The bottom left and the top right, those are your officers in 1993. I refer to the bottom left picture there as our first official officers meeting. That was at Jim Winan's house. We had a barbecue, we drank some beers, and we tried to figure out what our next step was. And then some of the guys again. I think most of you know Peter Allen. There's a young Peter Allen on the right, and that's Alex Nathanson, Bill Davis in the middle, and again the rest of us in our dress blues up there on the right. So we enjoyed the birthday. It was our 30th, and you know, hopefully we continue to celebrate them every 10 years or so. And you know, we recognize that we build on what was on our past generations. So we stand on their shoulders, so to speak. So I'm proud of it, and I think that's it. I think one other thing I'll just bring up here, I know you guys are probably getting interested. You'll see some more pictures of the new engine. It has made more progress. We did push that out on social media. It was after I had already completed this report. So it's coming along. We do still expect it to probably be done end of December, early January. I believe that means we'll be inspecting it in early January, which means we'll get it towards the end of January. Then I expect about 4 weeks of training with in-service date sometime in March. So I believe that. I'm not even going to talk about the tropics.
Please don't.
I'm going to leave that one alone. So if you have any questions, I'm all ears.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
No, not for me. Thank you, Chief.
Great, thanks,
All right.
Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up, utilities.
Hi, good evening. Marjorie Craig, Utilities Department. So this month, the first page, we had some star awards. Joe Connor and Chance Fell, they were instrumental in getting our water treatment plant a lab recertification to be able to perform the bacteriological tests. I brought that to you earlier this year. The months are flying by, but some months ago. So Chance had actually resigned, but he came back within a week. So that's something to be said about working for the village. He went to another wonderful place, but decided that he had to come back and see us. So, and then there's a picture of Juan there, and he saved the village about $60,000 or more by rebuilding an automatic control valve. And I subtracted his time and Keith Robinson's time. So they did a wonderful job of rebuilding that from that amount. So it'll be a lot more if you add it, if you counted for that. So El Portal, the manager has talked about that a little bit and where we are on that. Doug is out of town, so we're filling in for him because he's, as you know, out on the site, many times a day, and there's at least 3 of us out there, more like 5, at any given time. I want to thank the residents for their patience too. You can see that one of the residents has really taken it in stride and really, I don't know if you probably can't even see that very well, but the main guy on the project has a mullet, and so one of the skeletons in the decorations has the hair, the mullet, and so the guy under the umbrella, you think he's just like hanging out just on the property, but that's the flagman, and that's their job. They're out there to flag, traffic. So they really captured the essence of what's going on out there. So really appreciate that. But we are trying to get things tidied up before Halloween. The vulnerability assessment, I've already talked about that. So in utilities, it's more of a marathon, not a sprint, although I feel like I'm sprinting a lot for projects, but things don't move maybe as fast as you would, you might think they could. So I did apply for additional funding for the grant for data gaps, haven't heard anything yet. So, but that would be additive to the existing grant, and it'd be 100% funding for that amount. And Dover Ditch, I did have to prepare a pretty hefty document. It's been done before for anticipation of a grant. Fill out a bunch of data to get that grant. So they take that and they put together the agreement, the draft agreement. So you should be seeing that in the next month or so for Dover Ditch. Meanwhile, they're doing the design and permitting. The water treatment plant projects, I've got a little, I'm not going to read that to you, but you can see there's a few pictures. I can't do as well as the fire department and the police department, but I'm trying to give you some flavor of what we're doing. And this is when the lab came out and conducted the samples for the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. Otherwise, we know it's PFAS and lithium. That's what they're testing for. And it just takes quite some time. They had some to get those results back. So they've sent some information to us, which was, we're going back and forth. It's an extremely new type of testing. There's 2 types of tests. The EPA has not decided which of the tests they're going to use, and so you have to do both of them. We're just doing a pre-screen, so we don't have to do this, but we want to do this because we want to know. Just the sample kits and putting those together and the sampling techniques are actually pretty new. Even though we're using the best lab in the state ostensibly to do this work, there's still some bumpy parts, so on their end. Water main projects, y'all are, I won't go through the last 2, but the first one, the US 1 bridge replacement project, I just want to talk a little bit about that. DOT called us. They said we had a conflict with their 2 stormwater structures, and so when DOT calls you, and it was unanticipated, and there's a bridge out, you want to get out there as soon as possible because you don't want to be delaying them. This was not something that was caught in the first review, which means that they changed something in their design, and that happens. We are in their right-of-way, so we will not be reimbursed for anything that we did there. So we we got one of our trusted engineers, Kimley Horn, and they did a masterful job of putting together a design, conceptual design, very quickly. And we got with a contractor, David got with a contractor to see if they would be able to do the work right away. And that's a big deal because this wasn't a huge amount of work, even though it was costly, but to have someone pull their crews from another job and come do the work for the village of Tequesta, and that was Johnson and Davis, that was a great thing. So, and Clark, I always think of Clark Park, he lives in Tequesta, so he has a special place in his heart for Tequesta as well. Anyway, without going through all the details, DOT, we went out there and DOT said, oh, we just had an update. You're not going to be in conflict with this, but you need to fix this. And so it's done. That work's been done. But everybody really dedicated a lot of time to get it all done so that we wouldn't delay the bridge project, because we all want the bridge back in service, except for maybe the police department, right? I think I heard something. Anyway, so with that, got my lovely dashboard, and we've made a little bit more money than we had projected, which is always good, for the last fiscal year. And this is really a good snapshot for the entire fiscal year, because it has, of course, the fiscal year months. So you can really look at the consumption, the cross-connection control. It's eking up little by little, so we're trying to focus in, and we're still working on a plan. And then our number of customers that use the portal going up. And we were able to reduce the amounts, the receivables, because remember last month we did the write-offs. It's not as much as I would like to see, but we keep working on it. We have a process. We give people the benefit of the doubt, and so we go through the process. With that, are there any questions?
Council?
I have none. None, Marjorie. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on, agenda item, old business, agenda item 13, which is a continuation from our September 14th meeting for variance 1-23, an application from Turnberry Beach Road for a variance on a dock.
Good evening, Jay Hupsch, Community Development Director. As you said, this is a continuation of a variance from last month.
Hold on.
Just before we get into it, this is a continuation of a quasi-judicial proceeding, so I think it would be appropriate to re-swear in anyone who's going to be testifying and have any additional, if there were any ex parte activities between the last meeting and this meeting that would need to be disclosed. So let me go ahead and swear in anyone who's going to be testifying on this application. If you'll all stand and raise your right hand, each of you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you very much. And then coming back to council, we had ex parte disclosures at the September meeting, but if there have been any additional ex parte activities by any of you between then and now, those would need to be disclosed for the record at this time.
I have none.
I have none.
I have none.
None.
Thank you, Mayor. Then we can proceed with the item.
So this is an item Nilsa presented last month, but you guys are stuck with me now, so here we are. You had asked for some additional information from the applicant. They've provided some of that. Some of it's in the package, and they're going to provide a presentation next. But I do want to give you a quick update. As we've looked into the code and the comp plan a little bit more, we've kind of determined that one of the variances they're applying for, they're not actually eligible for because of the comp plan. So our comp plan says that you can't have a pier that's wider than 5 feet if you're in a seagrass area. That's more restrictive in the code, and you're just not able to get around that. So the applicant, we told them today, they've agreed to keep that dock or the pier down to 5 feet at the end. So they're still requesting a waiver for the length of the dock, but not the width of the dock. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, Dana Small.
Good
Good evening, council. Again, second time, I've got my fingers crossed that this time is a charm. Okay, so as you're aware, this is, how does it work? Anyways, as you're aware, from the last time, the dock was originally permitted in 1981 by the village of Tequesta, and it went out a total of 108 feet from mean high water. It's now proposed to be 109.5 feet, and that additional 1.5 feet is not an extension. It is simply the mean high water line has moved a little bit closer in, so a little bit of erosion has gone on, and so the total dock length from mean high water is 109.5. Your request last time to give some more details on the seagrasses and depths, and also there was a request to have DEP verify that they would not allow the dock to be shorter. I believe somebody requested that also. So what I'm gonna, how does this say that now? Which direction? Oh, that one, okay. Okay. So basically, this is an aerial showing the dock that was previously there and the dock that we're proposing to replace in the same location. Now, of course, our platform can only be 5 foot wide, but just demonstrating that we're not doing anything different than what was there for 40 years. I do want to point out that the previous dock was constructed, and it was consistent with the permit that was received by the village of Tequesta, but it was constructed to be 2 foot above mean high water. There was no set spacing between deck boards. So it had a total shading effect on the seagrasses, and that's why when we did the seagrass survey for the DEP permit, there was no seagrasses under there. So I want to say that there was no design consideration given to seagrass recruitment underneath the previously existing dock. So what we've got, oh, let's see if I can do this. Ah, there we go. See how easy it makes me, how easy I am to make happy. Okay, so we're not proposing any motorized vessels. That's the same. There's no change with that. This is for paddle boards and kayaks only. And I did provide some additional documentation as far as depths, that at the end of the platform, we do have 1.5 feet, and there was some, quite a few spot depths provided in the, I think, provided in the additional information that was submitted. The other thing I wanted to point out was there was some seagrass starting to recruit within the dock footprint. About, I think I identified about 15 square feet total. With that, where dock design is geared towards no net impact to seagrass because it is 5 foot above mean high water versus the 2, so it should allow sunlight underneath it, and we're going to have half-inch spacing between the deck boards. So those two items together are viewed to result in like a no net impact to the seagrasses that have started to recruit under there, and then hopefully more will recruit underneath the existing, underneath the new dock. So yes, also DEP did provide documentation in an email saying that they would not require a revision to the permit because some seagrass had recruited underneath the dock. So their concept of that is it implies no net loss also. So let's see here. I'm going to skip the next one. Oh, that's easy. That's the updated resource survey that we did, providing more details. And then we did a couple layouts showing the square footage of impacts if we shortened the dock to 75 feet and built it per your code. And I realize this one shows a 6 foot wide platform. Obviously that would have to be 5 foot wide, but that was, it had it landing in a fairly nice seagrass bed by, and I even flipped the direction to see if it made any difference with coverage, and it really didn't. And DEP did confirm that shortening the dock would not be permissible from their standpoint. The other question that was
brought up or mentioned, or one of the conditions of approval. I think I got that term right this time. Whew. So one of them was the requirement to use a professional mangrove trimmer for the mangroves within the trimming associated with the dock rebuild. And I believe I did. Okay, we're going to go through a couple photos of seagrasses. It was kind of a little bit murky when I went out there, so visibility, could have been better. Yeah. Anyways, it was getting ready to storm. So, anyways, here we go. So you can see the dock footprint. There's some overhang, some lateral trimming, but there's nothing as far as actual mangroves growing within that footprint that are going to need to be removed or anything like that. So I did provide this photo to DEP also and just kind of said, and they did recommend, they said they would not, they wouldn't have an objection, or I can't remember how they worded it, to using a professional mangrove trimmer, but it didn't require it because of it's just a little bit of lateral trimming, and this photo shows a fairly good picture of what's actually, it is a picture of exactly what's there at this time. So, so no net loss of mangroves either. I mean, some lateral trimming will occur, but that's not viewed as a net loss of mangroves. So with that and the fact that I now understand that we have to make the platform 5 foot wide, we can't have the 7.5 foot wide. I think that's going to be a challenge with working with the paddleboard, but that's their limitation, and they have made them aware of that. And of course, like I said, no motorized vessels, so we've done everything we could to comply with the village and get something it's in sort of a replacement. Okay, thank you. Council, any comments and
Dan,
questions?
thank you very much for bringing this back and going the extra documentation that was required. I'm comfortable with this. Thank you for the flexibility to your client to know that it's going to be a smaller dock, both at the T as well as the whole way out. So thank you very much for that. But I have no further questions.
Yeah, thank you for one of those images with the seagrass study. It was actually very helpful to see that if it's shortened, obviously it's going to have a much greater impact if it goes the full, was it 26 feet, whatever that distance was?
It goes out a total of 109.5,
but the north-south.
addition, that was a 26 foot.
Yeah, so that was very helpful to see. So yeah, I'll second what Rick said. I appreciate you coming back and clarifying all of that, especially given that DEP is saying that shortening the dock would not be permissible. I mean, that's pretty powerful in itself. The only thing I'm a little unclear of, I believe staff had recommended, notwithstanding, and I don't know about the timing of when staff made the recommendation versus when the email from DEP stating that they didn't feel that the professional mangrove trimmer was required, but wasn't one of staff recommendations to keep that requirement? Is that notwithstanding the fact that DEP said, or I'm sorry, whoever the organization was, that it wasn't required in their opinion?
Well, Jay, I don't know if you can answer that. I know there's a condition of approval on the memo, which that was one of them. I think the other is the Army Corps permits expired. So can you advise on the conditions of approval?
Unfortunately, I haven't been too privy to the mangrove trimming question.
Yeah, with I'm trying to scroll through it. There was just two conditional. One was the updated Army Corps letter, and the second was that they were recommending the professional mangrove trimming, which, the picture, I totally get it. It doesn't look like it's going to intrude into the new dock all that much. When if you're from the road, because I guess that picture was kind of like probably around right here-ish.
No, I was standing looking. Oh, actually no. So
yeah, that one.
That one. Okay.
Is there any mangrove, a lot of mangrove from this way,
to shore,
or is that just different shrubs?
That was different shrubs.
Okay.
There was some vines there, and there was scabola. So I was probably about 2 feet waterward of mean-high water.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of mangroves behind me when I took that picture, but for the most part, it was the scabolas. There were some vines growing in there. It was
very dense.
Okay. Well, generally, I don't have a issue with it. It sounds like it will not impact the seagrass as much if we keep it at the current distance, the 108, 109.5, or the additional 1.5 feet. My only question was that whether or not we're still going to recommend professional mangrove trimmer. Other than that, it all makes sense to me.
So that was me. I was the one that brought up the mangroves because often, even in the neighborhoods, for those properties on the river, and they build a dock, they end up ripping all the mangroves out because either they want a little beach or they want a better view. And obviously with this property, with the dock is being on the intercoastal, especially keeping the mangroves intact is very important, not just for absorption, but just animal life and also our environment. It wasn't that I was concerned about the mangrove trimming for the dock entrance. It's just, I would much rather have you guys have a professional that knows the amount to trim lateral rather than just hacking them down. That's where my concern was. Obviously, you need to have a safe passage to the dock. Totally get that. And I know it's overgrown and hasn't been catered to in a long time. So that's why I recommended a professional who knows the mangrove rules, laws, and everything about them, so we can make sure that they grow in a healthy manner after they are trimmed back. And that's really why I wanted that to be part of the approval process. Other than that, the dock, I'm fine with it. It exists. I appreciate the dock board placements of 1/2 inch to allow as much light in there as possible, and thank you for getting the pictures. I understand it's murky, but again, thank you for being respectful to what's trying to grow there and trying your best. And absolutely, I appreciate the no motorized vessels, because not only is it impacting the depth you would have to dredge, but we also have that area is very busy of all kinds of different water traffic areas. So I appreciate your work and the effort you put in to come back. I know it was a little bit of much, but
Well,
I'm in a better,
all in fun.
I'm in a better position tonight, now that we have covered a lot of the different angles that were just a little untied still, but I feel like they've been tied up, so thank you.
Okay. I don't have much more to add. I thank you for the additional study and for coming back. I think more generally, council is a second set of eyes, right? I mean, that's another reason we're up here. So I do just want to make sure, and Jay, I know you were not here the first time, but we really need staff to be diligent and make sure we have all the data we need to make a sound decision. Thank you for addressing my comp plan question. My only thing that I couldn't connect the dots, and I'm sorry if I overlooked it, I did not see an updated email from DEP that the seagrass was okay. Is it in here and I forgot it, or do you have it and we can get a copy? That was my only thing. Like, we're not the experts, DEP is, and so if there is not documentation, I think we can make that just, again, a condition of approval that DEP and Army Corps review or take note of the new seagrass study that's grown under the footprint. I'm not an expert. Right, it was provided in the email, and I'll let Jim.
So it was provided after the agenda went out. So an email came, I think, last Tuesday or so.
Right.
And it says that they're okay. Essentially, it says that they're okay with it, and that they actually wouldn't be able to permit it if it met code because of the seagrasses.
What was the date on the email? The date on the email?
The date was July 18th.
It's document 16 of this agenda backup.
No, there's an additional one that came on September 29th.
I haven't seen
Is
that.
it in the one that was issued today?
Oh, no, okay. Basically says the
Hold
same
on,
thing, correct?
because we had a revised agenda issued today. Maybe.
But I think it's the email that is included in here. They seem to just, they just basically confirm what you stated in your email about the seagrasses, but I haven't seen the new one.
Okay, so you haven't seen the new one either. You see the
only
July one.
I have the July 18th.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one's dated September 29th, and we certainly, I know Jay has a copy of it, so I'm sure.
So,
Would you
should I
mind
just
can you
into
read
the
it?
record?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank
I'll
you.
read into the record. I don't know if you want the entire thing, but the most relevant portion is it says the seagrasses that have recruited into the access walkway footprint would not necessitate a permit modification because the dock was designed to meet AP criteria. I agree that constructing the dock in the same footprint demonstrates avoidance and minimization, whereas the shorter dock results in impacts that do not occur with the longer dock. Furthermore, shortening the dock would not be permissible pursuant to Chapter 1820.04.5C3 FAC because the terminal platform would then be terminating in an RPA 1 or 2.
Great. That was the missing link for me. Thank you for reading that into record. And then, at the end, and so that the pier is going to be 5 foot, but it's still going to be the same length as what you originally proposed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think what we need, we'll take public comment, of course, but I was thinking that we honor the 2 conditions of approval that have been presented to us, and I know it's very unlikely, but also make a condition of approval if they were ever to consider motorized vehicles, it would have to come back to council too.
100%, yeah.
Okay, all right, with that, I'll open it to public comment. Mr. Bradford? So originally this was 2 variants, so I assume it's now down to 1. And the normal process is for the applicant to tell you what the hardships are relative to the variances requested. One of their consultants did do that. I saw it in the backup. But the next step is for you, for the record, to clearly state that you believe the applicant's hardship is valid. And to leave that out just makes it feel like it's a regular site plan review, and it's not. It's a variance. So I think you need to state for the record that you find you have tests for hardships in your code. There's maybe, I'm going from memories, 4 or 5. Typically, those are enumerated for the record, and the elected officials state whether they find that hardship is sufficient or what has been stated is valid relative to those items. But at a minimum, you need to, and this is my opinion, you need to state for the record that in regard to the hardships that are in play here, that you find that their application in their reasoning is sufficient for granting of the variance, which can only be done relative to a hardship. Thank you. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, I know that information is in our backup hardships. If anyone wants to comment on that, you can, and then we can make a motion as well.
No, I don't have any further comments at all.
Yeah. I read the backup, and I think it was pretty clear what the hardship was based on the backup, so I'm good.
Bickner? Yep. I agree, the depth and the seagrass. So that's the hardship. And then, can I get a motion with the conditions of approval for the expired Army Corps permit, the professional mangrove trimming, and that if they were to ever consider motorized vessels, they would need to come back as well? I think that covers it.
Can I just get clarity on I understand the special condition regarding the motorized vessels. I understand the special condition regarding the mangrove trimming. What was the third? All right, that might have been the first one that you articulated.
Army Corps, an updated Army Corps permit, I think is what it was.
Expired.
But it was expired.
Got it. Thank you.
Or it was a letter or a permit. I can't remember what the terminology was, but it says
It was a
letter in the
permit.
packet.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve this agenda item with the special conditions of, do I have to say it all again?
No, I just
Okay.
said it.
So
You're
moved.
right.
Thank you.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I had it written down if I had it.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
Opposed.
Opposed, okay. All right, moving on. Laurie, did you get that? Okay. Moving on to new business, agenda item 14, a conceptual presentation by 2GHO on a convenience store with fuel sales.
And Mayor, I typically have just an introductory comment that I like to make with these, with your permission, if I could do that at this time.
Yep.
So this is a conceptual presentation. It is not a quasi-judicial proceeding, and no action shall be taken by the village council beyond a discussion with the applicant. Neither the outcome of this conceptual presentation nor any comments made during this conceptual presentation by any council member or staff is a guarantee or assurance in any way of the final action that may be taken by the village council pursuant to a formal application and formal quasi-judicial proceeding. I also want the council to know, in this particular case, I attended a meeting with community development staff as well as the applicants and the developers' representatives regarding this particular application or this conceptual presentation. It was at that meeting and continues to be the village's opinion and position that for this to go forward, a zoning text amendment is required because the definitions of gas station and convenience store, the way that they read, and in my opinion it's a very clear reading, would not allow this use in the current mixed-use zoning district. And if you were to change the zoning from mixed-use to C2, it wouldn't be allowed because of distance separation requirements in C2. So a definitional amendment would be required to alter the definition of gas station or convenience store or full-service gas station in order to allow this to proceed as what we anticipate to be the presentation. I just wanted you to know about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. All right, Jay?
Jay Hupch, Community Development Director. Thank you, Keith. I don't have to give my presentation anymore. I think he covered everything, so I'll just introduce Troy Holloway from 2JHO.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, councilors. We're here tonight, as Keith had said, just for a strictly conceptual presentation of a Wawa convenience store. And it is just a conceptual presentation, trying to get your thoughts, your comments, good or bad. So we're just here to get your opinions. This is a conceptual overview. This is a redevelopment of a currently developed site in the village. It is vacant. It's a 1.4 acre property located at 150 Tequesta Drive, which is the existing Bank of America building, the Bank of America site. Property currently is zoned mixed use, which does allow for gasoline service stations, but they must front only on US Highway 1 as a special exception use. The redevelopment proposal consists of a 5,600 square foot convenience store with 6 fuel pumps, which would be 12 fueling stations. This is a surrounding area map. That is the parcel itself with the star. It is on the southwest corner. Well, I'm sure you're very familiar with that corner, the southwest corner of Tequesta Drive and US Highway 1. Just to the south there is Bridge Road. Some of the existing uses and buildings just to the south, abutting the property, is the existing CVS retail. Right abutting the west is Paradise Park and the existing 3-story commercial building. To the north, on the north side of Tequesta Drive, there's a 3-story office building, and then the Shell gas station. And then to the east, across US Highway 1, is the existing commercial plaza. This is the site plan. The orange structure there on the right-hand side, which would be to the east, abutting US Highway 1, that would be the gas canopy with the fuel pumps. Then just to the left of that, to the west, would be the 1-story convenience store. We do have some outdoor seating, some covered outdoor dining area, which would be on the north, kind of the northeast corner, the north side, abutting Tequesta Drive, and kind of facing US 1 as well. That would be covered outdoor dining, outdoor seating. As this site is an existing development, there's existing development all around it. It is kind of important for this parcel to maintain all of the existing vehicular access points on the perimeter and on the interior as well. We've made sure that this plan does preserve all of those, and there's no new entries proposed anywhere in the perimeter or the interior with this plan. It does also maintain the existing shared parking agreement with the parcel there to the west. The plan also does provide expanded buffers along US Highway 1 and Tequesta Drive, as your code section was modified to require 15-foot buffers instead of the 10-foot, which had been previously permitted and required. We also provide a 25 to 30-foot buffer, 32 feet along US Highway 1. So we do have some heavily landscaped buffers, nice and thick, which is, I think, important for this parcel. This plan also exceeds the parking requirements for the village, as Wawa does like to have ample parking for their facilities. This plan also meets the landscaped open space requirements in the village. And we also provided here some very generous building setbacks to Tequesta Drive and US Highway 1. I think we've got 58 feet there to Tequesta Drive, 72 feet to US Highway 1, and just in a mixed use, you can go as low as 0 feet in the mixed use district. Just some quick facts and some good information about Wawa itself. It did start as an iron foundry way back in 1803. It then went to the Wawa Dairy Farm in 1902, and then they opened their first convenience store, which was called Wawa Food Market, back in 1964, and they started in Pennsylvania. 8 years later, there was 100 Wawa stores. Currently, there's over 1,000 stores nationwide. They opened their first location in Florida, in Orlando, in 2012. Wawa's, they do offer a lot of items that are typical in convenience stores, but they do, Wawa's expands into offering larger variety of fresh foods. They have, including hoagies, I guess they're very famous for the hoagies, breakfast sandwiches, burgers, pizza, salads, coffees, and affordable fuels, of course. Their goal is to be recognized as a one-stop shop. Wawa's also invest heavily in the communities in which they locate by donating and supporting local food banks, to the local schools, local heroes, youth sport programs, chili festivals, and other nonprofits that do serve the community. Wawa is an ESOP. For over 30 years, Wawa has shared ownership with its employees through the employee stock ownership program that they have. And to date, it's 40,000 employees own over 41% of the company. So every employee at Wawa is part owner. They do offer 401k programs, and they also encourage their employees to attend college by assisting with tuition payments. Wawa has a kind of a fanatical cult-like following throughout the country. Some people absolutely love them. Some people get married there. It's kind of crazy. They have over 1.3 million fans on Facebook. It's nuts. And Wawa's, at last here, Wawa's only expand when they're absolutely sure that the infrastructure and quality of the store can be maintained to its highest level. They want to make sure they're not overextended in areas that they can't reach. Want to make sure that they continue to supply the needs that the residents have for that store. These are just some architectural styles. We did not submit specific architecture for this plan, but Wawa is very, they are very flexible as far as on the architecture when they do come into cities and villages, municipalities. Their stores, this is a typical store that we just actually did in West Palm Beach, but they typically have the wood-clad siding, metal roofs, kind of stone columns on the building, and then also the fuel canopies as well, and then shade canopies around the building itself. And the stone, depending on the region, sometimes the stone's a flagstone. As you get more further south and more to the coast, you end up with more kind of a coquina, lighter colored stones as well. And the colors of the buildings do tend to get lighter as well as you get further south. I couldn't find any styles of a kind of a coastal vernacular, really coastal themed store. I did find some with some outlookers and things, but again, they're very flexible in their design for the stores and work closely with the governments. The colors kind of get lighter and lighter. This is a very modern store. I wasn't sure where this store was at, but they do have some modern stores as well. And again, they're not just a convenience store. I think they look more like a kind of a gourmet market look, kind of like a fresh market on the inside. They're always very clean. They're very modern. As you can see here, they've got the fresh order counters where you can order your fresh food, fresh made pizzas and salads and things. They also have a lot of prepackaged foods as well. That's kind of another look at the area we can actually order food to go. They have large coffee stations there, kind of self-serve coffee stations, and you can also then help yourself with all the additives to those coffees. They are now doing pizzas. Again, that's the kind of the coffee station, very famous for their hoagies. They also offer catering, which is very, a lot of people do take part in the catering that they do provide. In conclusion here, again, this is just a redevelopment of a vacant 1.4 acre property with a convenience store gas station. This plan does adhere to all the development regs in your village. I think this plan, with the heavy buffers and landscaping, I think this would challenge other similar use properties in the village and near the village to upgrade their landscaping and aesthetics as well. And Wawa's, as always, do provide EV charging stations on their properties, every property, which is also a good convenience for the residents. So with that, I'm happy to listen to your comments. I do have, and I know we did meet with Keith, and we talked about the definitions. I mean, if this does go forward, I think we could get through it. There's 3 definitions, and it's very gray. They have a gasoline station, they have a convenience station definition, and there's also a full service gasoline station. And they all, I think they get very convoluted, but I think we could get past that. That would be down the road if we get to that point. So. Okay, thank you, Troy. Council?
Troy, thanks for coming in, and thanks to your client for having an interest in the village of Tequesta. Having said that, this is not my vision for that property. I don't want competing gas stations across the street from each other, just not what the look that I want from people coming to Tequesta. One of your slides talked about all the things that they do, and that would be in direct competition to almost every small business that we have on US 1 that have been here for a long time, and we need to look out for our local businesses. So this is just, right now, I have a hard time with this, and if we were to vote, I would be in the negative. So just, it's not what I'm looking for. And we've got other businesses that this would potentially decimate, and I got to look out for those folks. So.
All right. I'll start off by saying I think Wawa is actually pretty awesome. I'm not specific to this location necessarily, but like you said, good food, affordable gas, clean, all that stuff. And then obviously, arguably, anything's better than a vacant building sitting on the property. So there's that. But I do have a few concerns. Very similar to Rick's, almost exactly. In addition to the more technical side of it, with the text code amendment and all that stuff, I'll put that to the side because I'm a little unclear on that. But yeah, I'd say my biggest concern would be the negative impact it could have on not just the surrounding gas stations, but because of all the services they do provide, which are great. Their hoagies are awesome. If you're in a bind, they have good breakfast too as well. But my fear would be the negative impact they could have on our long-standing village establishments. And then I guess lastly is and I'm sure Wawa, they look at all the demographics and all the surrounding competition. My other concern would be just more the need for another gas station, I think. Because you got basically, I think, 3 within a quarter mile, right?
Yeah, it would be 5 with this one.
Yeah, and that, I think that's is something we need to consider. But other than that, I mean, I really appreciate you coming in. I appreciate your client being interested in our village. Those are just my initial thoughts on it. Okay. Yep.
First of all, it is freezing in here.
I know.
Holy moly.
Would you like
If
my
anyone
jacket?
sees me
Holy
shaking,
cow.
it's because I'm cold.
Sorry.
Jeremy, give her your
Like, I
jacket.
hope no one sees me.
And I wore pants today. Sorry, I just had to say that because I feel like we're all just sitting here freezing. Okay, so, wow, and I love everything that you guys provided for the backup, and I am huge on the visuals, the designs, the layouts. It helps us see the traffic flow and all those fun logistics. But I don't want to waste any more of your time, really. I'm going to stick to logistics. It has nothing to do that it's a Wawa or anything like that, but we also have been talking about our zonings and our codes and trying to be better for our village and keep it a small village family. With that, we have not heard any complaints or concerns from residents about a need to change that zoning or do a text amendment for that property. And we have had a lot of interest in that property of things that would fit there by what the current code does allow. So for me, there's no need for us to press and change anything. And also, again, going back to the fact, even if it's just a gas station and not a convenience store, there is not really a need for that. The gas stations we do have, they're not jam-packed, there's no long lines, they have a good flow, there's enough to have choices of options on pricing. And then logistic-wise, I have been to Wawa's. I'm not a cult follower of them, but when we are on road trips, they are very convenient, especially when we have children. They have a little bit of everything. However, I have not been into a Wawa that I think would fit on that property size. And that's another logistical concern for me is I think you guys are not looking at it realistically, knowing the size and the flow for the traffic coming in and out, because you're not only having gas traffic, but you have people coming in to visit as well. So again, for me, a lot of it's the logistics and the fact that I don't think our village has a need, an absolute need to change anything or do any text amendments in our code. So I'm just gonna stop there and I'm gonna say I'm not interested in changing anything in our code for that property right now. But thank you for coming in.
I have nothing else more to add. I echo the statements that have already been made. You know, we worked really hard on our commercial corridor plans, and this really doesn't fit the bill, especially since it's a pretty major zoning text amendment, in my opinion. So, yeah, just not a good fit for us.
Okay. All right. Appreciate your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Any public comment? Mr. Bradford? I just want to add one thing that I think wasn't mentioned, but you may have hinted at it. It's the intensity of the use. Troy's description of Wawa is spot on. I feel very comfortable stopping there when I take a road trip. It's one of the better places for, when you need to fill up or use the bathroom or get something quick to eat, blah, blah, blah. It's excellent. And it feels safe, generally speaking. But the intensity that you can find on Wawas, on interstates and other highways, it's always a lot of traffic, a lot of activity. And I don't think that that's a good place for that kind of intensity and activity to be in our village. So I just wanted to let you know the intensity, for me, the intensity and the activity of the use is also an issue. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Amy, you can come up first.
I would like to thank you guys for taking into consideration the small business community, and that would absolutely be a detriment to our local small food producers in our village that are trying to provide fresh, healthy things that are made by their family and our local people who live and work here. So I really appreciate you considering that part. Also knowing if there was not a code amendment that needed to be made, I'm not sure that we would have any right to say no. So this is something where what I'm asking for in the previous comment, this is how this comes full circle. If you don't put some of these things in action, you don't have any choices going forward. So thank you. Thank you for considering small business, and I appreciate what you guys have said tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Watkins?
Good evening, everyone. I just want to add to the comments here that Wawa in and of itself is, I'm sure, exemplary as a business. It's just not a good business model for the village. And we certainly would want to keep in mind, as you've mentioned, the businesses and the gas stations, two of which have somewhat of a convenience store attached to them. But my particular concern would be the family-operated gas station right next to CVS, which needs to be considered. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, this is a conceptual presentation, so no action taken with a vote. So moving on to agenda item 15, council consideration to sponsor Meals on Wheels Pay It Forward fundraiser.
So this item was brought to staff asking us if we would like to participate by being a site pickup for for pies. It started out as a conversation like, hey, it's been great for the staff, and as there became interest for us, and spreading the word with our staff to buy pies, it became a conversation about we'd be interested in becoming a pie site, so that way if our residents buy pies, they'll be able to pick them up from us. It's a 2-hour window that residents would pick up from us, but like the item before us, if we were going to do this and we're going to put our name behind it, usually council has to endorse something like this. So that's why it's in front of you. From a logistics standpoint and staff standpoint, it's not an issue. There's very minimal impact for us, and so and as you know, Meals on Wheels is a great organization, gives back. So for us, we bring it forward for consideration.
Council?
In total disclosure, my wife, Maura, does work for Meals on Wheels, but there's no benefit to her, to me, the organization, or to the village if we are participating. So just for the record, if she sells one pie, if one pie is purchased in Tequesta or 500, there's no financial benefit to either one of us. So I just make that very clear. Maura couldn't be here this evening, but it's just a great organization. I mean, if you're familiar with Meals on Wheels in Palm Beach County is a little bit different. They have chosen not to take any government funding, so it's only their revenues only generated from the goodness of the community. This is one of their biggest fundraisers. They get restaurants, country clubs throughout Palm Beach County to donate the pie. There's standard, I think there's apple, pumpkin, there's key lime, and pecan. They're donated and they're sold for $30 or $35 depending on the pie, and that's unique because $35 pays for 7 meals for a homebound senior. Again, they take no government funding, so if somebody were to call and say, hey, and we have clients in Tequesta, we have volunteers in Tequesta, so this will be great to increase exposure, because this isn't for indigent people, it's for homebound people that don't go out, don't drive, can't have no access to get out of the office, and it provides a safety and a wellness check for each person. Every time that volunteer shows up on a daily basis, it's a safety and a wellness check. So I love this program. It's our largest fundraiser of the year. And again, what we would do is, if we choose to move forward, anybody from the Tequesta or that wants to pick up a pie from Tequesta, it's one of the 4 or 5 pickup sites that they have throughout the county. So what you have in front of you is some homemade pies, baby pumpkin pies for you that the chef at Meals on Wheels made, just so you get a little taste of what the pies taste like from Meals on Wheels.
Is it pecan? Because it's pecan.
Looks like
Not pecan.
it's pecan.
You just open the door for a serious debate.
I guess it depends where you're north or south of the Mason-Dixon line, I suppose. But if there's any questions about the organization of the event itself, I can answer that for you. But thank you for the consideration to let the village become a pickup site.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of it. I think it makes sense, us being at the north end of the county. I don't know where the other pickup locations are, frankly. But
It would be one possibly in Jupiter, and then downtown West Palm Beach, and then Delray.
Okay, so this brings it a little more local to Tequesta. I have participated with in the Pie It Forward program in the past. It's great. People have fun with it. The pies are fantastic, and it's a great way for the community just to come together and donate their skill sets, with baking pies and doing a good thing for our homebound senior citizens. So I am all in favor of it.
So that was one of my questions, which you asked, was the logistics of where is the nearest pickup site. I was told it was West Palm and then Jupiter possibly, but Jupiter is such a...
Used to be Roger Dean Stadium, but with the construction going on,
Right.
They're going to have smaller satellite pickups. So that's why it would be one.
But Jupiter's obviously much bigger than us, so they're going to have a heavier flow going through there. So I'm fine with this. I think it's great. I am familiar with the Meals on Wheels organization, and we do have local Tequesta residents that do participate, and they've been doing it for years. And even before we had a sign ordinance, people used to have the signs in the yard. So I do know that many residents participate. So I think it'd be great if we created and accepted a local pickup site and make it easier on our residents, because we know they don't like to leave the bubble either. So
None of us do.
I know.
Meals on Wheels is a great organization. I love what they do. So personally, I'm like, yes, but with my elected official hat on, I just have a couple questions that hopefully you can answer. So what, are we going to be a sponsor, or are we just a pickup site?
Would be a pickup site.
Okay.
The village can do a team, like what companies and organizations do a team. and Tequesta can do a Village of Tequesta team. So it just makes it everything comes under one thing. So we can say that the Village of Tequesta, purchased. People under the Village of Tequesta purchased 50 pies or 100 pies, but we're not we would not be a sponsor. We would get recognition as participating if we created a team. It would be on the Pie It Forward website and things like that. And then, but we would also be the only municipality that would be officially doing it. Palm Beach Gardens does provide a booth at their green market to sell pre-orders of pies, but we would be the first municipality to actually be an active participant.
Yeah, and I guess that was my second question, because we did get like a 2-page kind of fact sheet. So it's supposed are we a sponsor, or are we just a pickup site? Do you know why there's been no cities that have?
It's never been approached. It's always been done as individual pie purchasers or organization, like a Hedrick Brothers or something like that too. They're really going and reaching out further.
Okay.
So we would be acting just like any business. We would actually just be like a business like ABC company that would sponsor a team.
Okay, so they've never been turned down by a city.
No.
It just they've never asked. They're
Right.
like starting a new initiative.
Correct.
Okay.
Just trying to increase their reach and frequency.
Okay. All right. Any public comment? All right, council. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Thank
Okay,
you.
we are skipping agenda item 16. Agenda item 17 is ordinance number 11-23, which is first reading on the use of installation and maintenance of artificial turf.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 1123, an ordinance of the Village Council of Village of Tequesta, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78 zoning, Article 9 supplemental regulations, Division 4 landscaping, to provide new regulations for the use, installation, and maintenance of artificial turf, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 78 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify effective date and for other purposes. This is first reading. This comes to the Village Council with a recommendation from the local planning agency, which heard and discussed this ordinance last month. The recommendation of the local planning agency is to really impose some pretty severe changes to the ordinance. The LPA's recommendation is that we only allow artificial turf in backyards in a putting green application, and that with that application that we also require annual inspections regarding the condition, quality, and upkeep of the greens. So pretty significant change on the LPA recommendation compared to what the ordinance provides, which the ordinance as written provides fairly robust regulations for location placement, installation, and maintenance. The ordinance as written does provide for putting greens as well. So that is the recommendation that this travels with to you for first reading, and it is now to you for your discussion and further direction and action.
Okay. Jay, do you have anything to add? No. Okay. All right, council.
Can I actually start? Because before I give my opinion, I want to ask for the record so the public knows if it was recommended from the LPA to be just a putting green. Is there a percentage on that putting green? Or can someone say, my whole yard's going to be a putting green?
10%. So the LPA didn't get into that depth of detail. The ordinance language regarding putting greens talks about a putting green shall not exceed 500 square feet in size. So that is in the draft ordinance. They did not discuss adopting that, changing that, or
That's fine. I just want the public to know it doesn't mean someone's whole backyard could be a putting green. Thank you. All right, moving on.
The more I read on this, and the more feedback that I've received, a lot of questions. I know that initially it was when it came before us. Initially, we were going to talk about side yards or backyards. I agree. I don't agree with the side yards anymore. I would only agree that it could go in the backyard. the 10%, if we're only looking at the backyard, I would like to see that drop down to about a 5% figure. And what happens if say if it stays at 10, is 10% or 500 feet, is it whichever is less? And so it's not to exceed 10%, so there's a lot of,
Right.
that would be my one question. But I would, just to throw it out there, that, I'd like to see it at 5%, backyard only. I don't want to limit it to a putting green. Some comments were emailed to us, to council members, where they're talking about compaction when installing this. But how is compaction in that it's a negative to even allow this, but how is compaction for a putting green different than compaction that happens when you install pavers? I mean, I'm not a paver installer, but I see them compacting that. So I think that if it's the same process, I would see that there would be some permeability, because I don't think that we are going to limit. I don't think the compacting is going to make it that that there will never be any water absorption. There's only going to be 100% runoff. I don't buy that. I don't follow that comment that we received. Yeah, so that's really it. I want 5% in the backyard only. I don't want to limit it to a golf course, what if somebody says, well, I'm going to have a patio, a concrete patio, and I want to put turf on top of it instead of a nice decorative rug. I want to put a concrete pad where I'm going to have my picnic table and all that, and they put artificial turf on top of that to cover it. And do we say that a backyard patio can't be bigger than 500 square feet?
Well, if it's on top of, this is separate from impervious area, correct? Or no? Jay,
correct.
if you think you can address any, come up to the podium, please. So this is separate from impervious. So if they put something on top of their impervious surface that has already been approved, I don't think this would apply.
Okay.
But if they create more impervious surface, I mean, that would be a whole separate permit. Is that correct? Or?
That's my take on this as well. If you had a backyard patio, that would not be part of your landscaping. That would be part of your residence. So I agree with that comment. It seems to me that application would not be regulated by this code.
Okay. I don't agree with the annual inspection. I think that's, how deep are we going to get into monitoring somebody's backyard? Are we going to go make sure their swimming pools are in order and that they're well chlorinated and they're not dirty? I think if somebody's going to go, I think the restrictions on the product, as it's in the ordinance, is going to determine a long lasting, and they have to have certain guarantees, that it's a 30-year product or 10-year or whatever it was. So I don't agree with the annual inspection. I think that's a time drain on staff. And I don't think that we need to be going into people's backyard and tell them that we think that they're not maintaining their putting green or their artificial turf necessarily. So I'd like to see it at 5% only in the backyard.
Yeah, so I am definitely not an expert on artificial turf and the potential positive or negative environmental impacts it could have, but I do feel like limiting it to putting greens is a bit excessive. And the annual inspection seems also excessive. I was strongly in favor of limiting it to the backyard. I think that made total sense. As far as the threshold, 10% or 5%, at the time, 10% sounded just fine with me. Perhaps lowering it to 5% is not a bad idea, but I would have to, I don't know how practical that actually is without kind of diving into that a little more. I think my bigger question, though, is there's obviously a lot of people in the village that already have artificial turf. So we're going to create quite a few legal non-conforming uses if this goes forward. And then so what happens if someone has to do a pretty significant repair? I mean, how would that be handled?
The way the ordinance addressed that issue is right at the end, and it says properties with existing artificial turf that was previously installed in violation of the location, landscape area percentage or quality requirements of this section may remain until it is required to be replaced, at which time full compliance with this section shall be required.
So that's just straight replacement, not if there were, let's say someone had to make a pretty significant repair, then would that fall under that?
Yeah, the way this is drafted, it says required to be replaced.
Okay.
So, you know, that's an issue that the council might want to work through. I think the intent in drafting it is that we recognize there are existing applications now that may be in violation of this code, and if this code goes on the books, essentially this grandfathers it. So then, the question becomes, if it falls into a state of disrepair and code enforcement catches it and brings it and they're found in violation, then we'd require them to come to code. I guess if this needs to be or this wording needs to be tweaked to address your comment, so it's not a whole replacement of everything, but replacement of even of
certain amount
some
of
portion,
square
whether it's
footage,
50% or and
Yeah.
that would be a policy decision that I would look to the council for further direction on. But that's the intent here, and that certainly can be adjusted to whatever you think is the appropriate trigger.
Okay. And then, yeah, I mean, again, I think limiting it to the backyard for a lot of reasons is a great idea. But I am not in favor of telling people what they can do in their own backyard. It's just, I think if someone wants artificial turf, and unless there's an extremely compelling reason, which I've read all the comments, but I think there's, like with anything else, there's always, there are always two sides to that. I personally, I just don't feel right telling someone they can't use artificial turf in their backyard. And I would also ask, I mean, it just seems like we've done a complete 180. Last time we were talking about this, it was, I think we were looking at the North Palm Beach Code as a model.
Correct.
That to me seemed perfectly fine. And I guess I would ask, are other municipalities taking this approach, or are we the lone ranger here?
No, this is, if it's not a hot topic, it's certainly a very warm topic. There are cities that have code akin to this on the books already. There are cities that are addressing it now. It seems to be becoming a popular thing, so it is, we are not the only ones out there dealing with this or that have dealt with it. Okay. By no means.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's generally where I'm at. I agree. I think this takes, in my opinion, not knowing all of the environmental, the possible impacts, in my opinion, this is taking it a little too far.
Which part's taking it too far?
I would say
LPA recommendations?
limiting it to putting
Okay.
greens and the annual inspections.
Okay. And then, Vice Mayor, real quick, if you
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
mind, I know I usually speak last, but just to address two things or kind of add on to what Councilmember Painter said. I know we talked about this at the workshop. There appears to be, we've all seen properties where it seems like they're probably illegal to begin with, don't meet code to begin with. So what if they don't meet code, our current code? That's not technically a legal non-conforming use, right?
If they're in violation today with the way we've been applying it, is that your question?
Yeah.
Well, that would be an enforcement issue. So my understanding is the way that this has been handled under our current code is this has been treated as non-living landscape material, and we've been allowing it up to 10%. I don't think there are location requirements, and we have nothing in our code, so that I know there are no maintenance or installation requirements or quality requirements. But if somebody was in excess of the 10% is how we've been interpreting it, that could be a code enforcement action now.
So in that,
Like I say, our code is silent, completely silent on everything in terms of location and quality and that sort of thing. So that would be a difficult thing to enforce right now because we just don't have code on it. And we've been allowing it as a non-living landscape material under that portion of the existing code.
and then so there are properties that may or may not fall under that, or even if they are legal non-conforming, and maybe this is something to consider, even if they don't need technically replace, like what if they're just looking poorly? Like I've seen some where they start to like roll and they're just really don't look Yeah, so like, how do we address that?
Well,
Is that something we
so-
would have to specifically reword in here?
And, you know, the draft ordinance that's before you on first reading does have language that specifically addresses that. It requires it to be maintained in, quote, like new condition, free of weathering, free of fading, free of dirt, debris, stains, tears, holes, ruts, depressions, and the like, and those are required to be repaired immediately. So this code puts that on the books. As I said, right now, we have absolutely nothing. We would have to, if it got to a point where it looked bad enough to violate some other minimum property standard requirement that we have in our code, we could attempt to bring it under. I don't have language at my fingertips, but you know, we have minimum property standard code that generally requires yards to be kept in a you know, you can't have high grass and weeds, you can't have that sort of thing. So there may be language that would allow us to bring a case if the existing artificial turf looked poor enough to meet that violation.
Yeah,
that would be the best that we have right now, though.
I personally think it'd be good to have language in here to address that. So whether it's illegal or illegal, non-conforming use, that we still have the ability to, if it starts looking very aesthetically unpleasing, that we could enforce them fixing it. Maybe not replacing the whole thing, but fixing it. Okay, I'll let you go and then jump back to me. Sorry.
Those are good points. I mean, I toyed with this upside down, round this way. I've looked at the other towns' ordinances as well. I know that Palm Beach has one as well. Okay, so I'm gonna use my backyard as an example, because I have a humongous yard that wraps around a house. And my house does not go all the way to setback, so I have huge side yards as well. Just my backyard is probably about 2,400 square feet. So if I did the 10%, I'd be looking at like 240 square feet of artificial turf. Now, if I ever installed a pool and I wanted, let's say, just some artificialness around it, that could be totally doable. I do agree with all the comments about limiting it to a putting green. I think that's very limiting because not everyone golfs either. Again, maybe they just want it around the pool edge to keep dirt from jumping in the pool. I'm actually fine with that. I do think we should stick it to the backyard. And that for me goes into a lot of logistics of storm drainage. I mean, in the west side, we're actually installing more storm drains because we just naturally have more water, and sanitation as well. So you do have to clean your artificial turf, ironically. And if everyone had it in the front yard, you have animals passing by and other things happening in your yard. I doubt everyone's cleaning their yard on a routine basis. So for me, I've seen enough sanitation issues with it on the front yard. So I think backyard's great. I think 10% is good. I'd be open to 5%. I would actually have to look at the most average side backyard to see if 5% is doable. Again, if I look at the average size of a pool, would that rope or wrap around a pool to make sense? I mean, I'm open to that. I think that 1 year inspection is a little aggressive, only because we aren't inspecting anything else. We're not inspecting pavers or patios on a yearly basis to make sure that they didn't come in and extend it. I don't know if that's where that was coming from, if we don't have trust in people, if they put in the X amount of percentage of artificial turf is the year inspection to make sure they didn't come in later and install more when no one was looking because it's in the backyard, right? I don't know how we address that because I already know now residents who have it everywhere have flat out said to me, we know council was talking about this, we're getting it now. So we get in the door. So I think that's what the push was to kind of get in there so they can be grandfathered. I just think that year, I think we need to avoid the year inspection unless we're going to be inspecting the other angles as well that's back there. Like pools, that was a great example. Dirty pools are not sanitary, so are we going to be inspecting everyone's backyard? I don't love that either. I would think that just comes on your neighbor looking over the fence, like your pool looks, yeah, so yeah, so wrapping it up, I think basics of backyard, does not have to be a putting green, but limited to a certain percentage. And as of right now, I'm okay with the 10%. I'm open to looking at lowering it if needed.
Okay. a couple of things. I know last time we talked about not adding commercial or mixed use to consideration, and that they would be a variance. Do we need to define that better, that it would be a variance consideration for mixed use or commercial, or is it implied? I just want to make sure that that's clear.
So the law does not allow use variances at all. You can't get a variance for a use. And so to the extent we say that this use is you can only do this, let me find the language, how we wrote this. Artificial turf is permitted to be used on lots, improve as single-family or two-family dwellings only. I mean, we can add clarifying language, but we would not allow anybody to get a variance for that because it's a use that's not permitted and you can't get a use variance under the law.
Okay, so I feel like last meeting of the workshop, we said that they could do a variance. I don't think you were here, actually. Were you here? Maybe not.
No, I was.
You were at the planning.
I was at this meeting. I was at the LPA
That's right.
hearing.
So I'm glad I brought it up then. So they would not be able to do a period end of story, it sounds like. Because they can't do a variance
That's
for
my
it.
take on this, yeah.
So that's different from what we discussed last time.
That's good.
Is everyone okay with that? I mean, because what happens when we had
The
the vet that
Right.
legitimately
Right.
had a legitimate use for a little area of artificial turf? How do we address that then in the future?
So you either need to allow for it in the code, or they wouldn't be able to do it.
That's tough.
I want to make this thing much bigger than it is, but do we want to just completely exclude commercial and mixed use? And
Well, I think the intent of what we're looking at is for residential only, and I understand that now we're just trying to make sure that it's clear and that there's not a workaround. But I thought when we had this discussion about the vet, it came up that we were allowing that use for the bathroom area, for lack of a better word, for the vet, because I thought we talked about that when we had, either at the workshop or the last time we addressed this.
Keith wasn't here though, so I think we didn't get the correct information.
If we, I could try to craft some language that provides a limited permissible use, or you could make it a special exception in commercial applications.
That's what, I think that's what,
Yeah.
that was the comment, that's where I think we landed on, when we talked about the changing the text for the vet, that it would be a special exception. I believe that's,
Because then the commercial application would have to come and
Yeah.
explain the need and meet the applicable criteria to have it.
That
You
makes
could do
sense,
that.
yeah.
But then we're gonna have to revise all our commercial and mixed use to add that. So would it be
I-
more efficient to do it here
I would write it,
versus
I could write it into this ordinance.
just for efficiency,
Yeah.
Okay.
instead of having to rewrite all?
And
three
then,
of those?
you know, make a cross-reference to the special exception code, and then, you know, put it in here, reference chapter 78's special exception procedures, but do it in this document and avoid having to rewrite all of that.
Okay, and then, a resident who may or may not be sitting in the room tonight brought up a good point that, corner lots, if we do decide to include side yard, that we would need to think about how corner lots would be addressed. That might be another line item to add. Cause it would look really weird for like one side of a corner
Yeah.
lot.
Can I actually answer that? Because I had to go through this because I'm on a corner lot, and when we did a fence, I could not bring that fence past a certain point on the side of my house. So Jose did have a number to that, because I wanted to bring the fence all the way up the side road to the front of my house, and that wasn't allowed. There was an actual limitation on the side of my house that I couldn't go past. So if someone's coming in for artificial turf, I think it was a little hairy on how you read it, but Jose did have an answer. And I tried to look back for the past email, but I think it was before council and everything. It was so long ago. I know it's in there.
The code does address corner lots, and it has definitions for, on a corner lot, what you consider the front yard and what you consider the rear yard.
And we went through this when another resident tried to come in for a gate to the side driveway, because that's on a corner as well.
So there is language in the zoning code that deals with that. I can look that up if you want to know exactly what it says, but I don't remember. Sometimes it says you have 2 front yards, or sometimes, you know,
It
sometimes
goes by
says,
the mailbox, is what we established last time.
Sometimes it says, the
Yeah.
yard that your mailbox is on, or the yard that is your street address yard is your front yard. So let me see, I can see if I can.
Yeah, and then the
find
other part of
These
that.
are, that would look really weird with like real grass butting up to artificial grass.
Well, most people would have a fence on the side street. Most people don't have an open.
Well, we said if it would have to be behind the fence on a side yard. If we go down
Or
the route
hedges,
of
it
having
would have to
side
be
yards, I know we're
screened.
considering removing side yards, but I
So it'd be
still thought it'd be
screened.
worth to bring it up just in case.
So screened, it has to be screened.
I mean, yeah, it has to like be behind your fence, but then if you don't have a fence,
Well, a lot of people have like the Clusia hedges on a side yard,
yeah, true.
so maybe just screened. I don't know.
So,
I just know that side yard thing is such
for
a
example, in our wall and fence code, it says if a wall or fence is erected or located on a corner lot, parentheses, in which case the building front shall be considered to be the side of the building facing the right-of-way associated with the street address, then that requires a visibility triangle and changes the height in that area. So just from looking at that language, I would, it would appear that we define on a corner lot, the front yard is the yard associated with the property street address, and the other corner would still be a side yard. And there may be different setback requirements on that, but I don't know. You know, if you're looking, if the council's going in the direction of only allowing it in a rear yard, then that would tell us which yard is the rear yard in association with the 2 corners.
Okay, and then my last comment / question is, so we're talking about potentially changing the percentages as well. So the original, the 10%, I'll make sure I got this right, does not include the up to 500 square foot putting greens. Those are
Correct.
separate.
The way this is written,
So you'd have-
that was excluded.
You could have the 10% plus the 500 for a putting green.
That's the way it's drafted right now.
And then, but the 10% is just of required landscape areas, not 10% of the whole property, correct?
I believe that's correct.
And then what is the percentage of landscape areas? So I want to, like, if we're doing it to 5, is it like, well, is it going to be like
I know.
postage stamp little? Like, is it even, so I'm trying to, like, visuals are great for this kind of stuff.
Yes, the way it's written, artificial turf, exclusive of putting greens, may comprise up to a maximum of 10% of the required landscape area on any lot. That's the way it's drafted right now.
And what's the percentage of required landscape area on a lot?
Well, you're going to have whatever you're going to.
Jay, do you know off the top of your head?
The building. Let me see if I can find what the code. 35% maybe. That's not an uncommon percentage. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Landscape area. Access ways, floor-friendly interior. Let's see. Landscaping on single-family and duplex lots.
Why he's looking for that, there's a resident on the west side of Tequesta, and they redid the house. And this resident was finding some challenges, but working with building department to figure out the answer. Because we're talking about this now. Resident was getting confused whether they had to meet what we're approaching or what it was currently at. The entire backyard was going to be astroturf. It does have a pool, so that takes out some of the square footage. There is a putting green in addition to more astroturf, and to meet code, resident had to take away one side yard, so it is natural grass. Yeah, so I mean, if the current one allows for putting green, or the one we're going towards does allow for putting green plus 10%, it could be some of the average size home full backyards. They were able to figure it out, but I think it was very, very tight.
If you guys don't mind, can I take public comment while we wait for Keith?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any public comment? Mr. Bradford?
So I have some questions. Is the golf putting green, you're saying that that's not counted towards the 10% that you're contemplating allowing, is that correct? Okay. Can you ensure that the golf putting green is only in a backyard?
Something we could consider.
Yeah, because you certainly don't want it out front. So the
I think we have that in there.
so the whole idea about, side yard and backyard only, and now I like where Mr. Sartori is going with this. I don't think it should be side yard either. But the logic for backyard is we don't really want to see it, is what it boils down to, right? So when it came to the corner lot, and whoever that was that told you that, kudos. When it comes to the corner lot, you've got your front yard is facing one street, and that's your address. The other side of the house is on another street. And so if you did put it in the side yard, you would be seeing real grass to this point and fake grass here. But the same thing is true if someone does a large portion of their backyard and they're on a corner and there is no fence or hedge, we have to see it. So is that something we should consider, is just for them to, I think Laurie was
Screen
using,
it.
screen it. Maybe it doesn't need a fence, but at least screen it so we can't see it. And then the other thing, I think this is what you're asking Keith to look up. So is the 10% currently in the ordinance, is that for the totality of the open space for the entire property, or is it for the backyard only?
Yeah, so here's how we do this. The way this ordinance is drafted, it contemplates allowing artificial turf on 10% of the landscaped area. We define landscape area to mean the entire parcel, less the building footprint, driveways, and hardscapes such as decks and patios. So you would take the building footprint, the driveway, and all of that. And what's left is the landscaped area, and whatever size that is, 10% of that. That's how we define landscaped area. So it's not by a hard percentage, it's a case-by-case basis. And you take the house, take the building and the structure off, and what's left is the landscaped area. 10% of that. That's how it's drafted now.
So I don't know how you do it, but I would suggest you find since you want to, sounds like most of you would like to limit this to the backyard, is to find a way to be fair to a person who wants to do it, but not let them count open space that's, on the side yards and front yard. Kind of focus on the backyard only, is if it can be done. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it does say in the ordinance already that putting greens are in the rear yard only, so we address that.
One other thing.
Okay.
If
one
people
more
are
thing.
running to the providers of this service in mass, do an emergency ordinance to have zoning in progress to stop this stuff.
Thank you. Okay, so understanding these percentages, that it's going to be 10 or 5% of the entire landscape area, so not just the back, like if we limit to just backyard, it applies to the entire landscaped area of the whole property still, even if we were just in the backyard.
That's the way it's drafted right now.
Okay.
Mayor, my suggestion to go to 5 was because I want to limit it to the backyard, but I didn't want a full 10% of but doing 5% of the landscaped area, the entire. That's why, because I don't want to, because then how do you define backyard? Where your fence starts, so taking a smaller percentage, because we're only going to allow it in a smaller spot. My suggestion is to only allow it in the backyard. That's why I went from 10 to 5%. So it'd be 5% of the overall landscapable area, but only in the backyard. That's why I cut it to 5. Because we don't really, how do you define somebody's backyard where it starts? And I think we really run into a lot of gray areas. So that's why I dropped it to 10% of the entire landscapable area. dropped it to 5% of the entire, not
Because
just
it
the
includes
backyard.
the front too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So front, side yard, whatever is landscapable, 5% of that, but only in the backyard. That's my intent, for clarification.
And then we are in favor of keeping the putting green separate.
I am. Oh, wait.
They're not included in the percentage.
So, meaning it actually gives you more?
Gives you more
It's,
than.
yeah, 500 square feet.
Yeah.
I would say you pick one or the other.
I
Yeah.
agree. I would say, my 5% is 5% backyard only. If they want it to be a putting green, it can be a putting green, but it's not 5% plus a putting green.
So I'm open to the 5%, because we can always increase it in years, whatever. But I'm open to the 5%, but keeping it however you want to place the 5% in your backyard. You want a putting green, you want it around the pool, you want to put it underneath the little play area for a kid. I'm fine with however you want to do the 5%. That's not my decision for you to choose.
I'm sorry, Keith. We're talking a lot about such a little topic, artificial turf. The side yard, is that outside the fence line? Because I mean, if anything inside the fence line on the side of the house.
So the fence line, well, it depends on
So
what the person
I
puts
just
the
if it's
fence.
behind the fence or screen and it's on the side of the house and that's considered side yard, I wouldn't be against
For
that.
me, it's the property line. So my side yard property line comes way up. So I don't actually have that big of a
Here's
yard.
how we
It's
define our
perception.
yards. The front yard is the open space extending the full width of the lot between the front lot line, which is either probably the edge of pavement or a sidewalk, and the nearest line of the main building. The rear yard is the open space, again, extending the full width of the lot, the depth of which is between the rear lot line and the nearest line of the main building. So again, property line to property line. The side yards are what's in between those. So the side yards is the open space between the main building and the side lot lines from the front yard to the rear yard. So the front and the rear go all the way to the side property lines. The side,
Goes from structure.
the side yards stop kind of where the front yard begins and the rear yard begins on the side of it.
So I know I have fence. My fence goes into the side yard, so I would not be opposed to having it. If the goal is to not see it truly, I wouldn't be opposed to having it in the side yard so long as it's screened,
Yeah.
like behind your fence or a good hedge, so it's completely not visible.
Yeah, because I think you could run into that same, although it wouldn't be visible to the public, but you could run into that same issue with real grass running up against artificial, and it just looks silly, depending on how the yard's laid out.
Yeah.
Side yard has to be real, and then boom, artificial, which is strange. So I agree.
So what I'm hearing is, I think, with the consideration for mixed use and commercial, we're probably gonna have to do another first reading, or is that something that?
Yeah, I would want to bring
Okay.
that back for first reading.
So we're gonna do another first reading.
That change would, I think, require another first reading.
But everyone's in favor of Keith drafting up something for mixed use and commercial as to not exclude
Yes.
them. And then we want to keep it to the backyard only. It is okay on the side yard so long as it's completely concealed and screened. And the same would, we have to address the corner lots of the backyard, that whole run is screened. And then everyone wants to reduce it to 5%.
So that's the part I'm unsure of. Just because I'm not opposed to doing it to 5, but I am still a little concerned that it's going to create an awkward condition. Are we sure the 5% is going to adequately cover someone's backyard? Not the whole backyard. but-
Probably won't cover it because by the time people get done putting in a driveway and this and that,
Yeah.
the landscapable area shrinks really quickly.
That's what I'm.
My yard's very unique because I don't have a front driveway, so
Yeah,
I
I
have
don't
a
wanna
ton of.
create a condition where someone who might want to do this and comply with code looks at it and the 5%, they're just like, this doesn't even make sense.
See, I don't have a pool. I've got a big front yard.
Yeah.
I've got a pie-shaped lot. I have no pool. I have no back patio. So my 5% is gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone,
That's why I've been doing
everyone's
the
gonna be
match, and I
different.
think once you take a pool out and the driveway out, it's
Yeah.
really not a lot, but I find it easier to increase than decrease. So I'd be open to putting it at 5.
Well,
for now.
I mean,
But I'm not
The
against the 10.
recommendation, the recommendation was given to us, we expect there's some kind of analysis and due diligence behind it, that these percentages are reasonable. I do agree with what you said, as long as it's concealed, I'm okay with the 10%, to be honest, so.
Leave it at 10 for now.
I agree.
Definitely screened.
I don't want to stop progress, but I strongly on the record. Yeah. If we're gonna shield it on the side yard, then that would make me feel better about keeping it at 10%.
Okay. All right, did you get that
So
direction?
the two changes are to allow the use in commercial and mixed-use applications as a special exception, and to allow it in the side yards only if concealed from public view.
Yeah. And we are excluding in addition to, the 10% is inclusive of
Yeah, it's
a
everything.
putting green or whatever. You get 10% space.
Putting green
period.
is not separate. It's
Putting
included.
green, if you want a putting green, that's
Has to be part of your
included in the
10%.
10%.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And then did you get the, if it's a corner lot, the backyard has to be screened too?
Backyard screen. Putting green included in 10%. I got it. Yeah, that's enough change to require a first reading.
Understood.
But we'll have it back to you in November for first reading again with these changes. Assuming that's the motion and the vote.
Yes. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion with all that.
All the revisions that
Yes.
Keith just said on record?
And a second first reading.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Who's the second? Who's second that?
I think Patrick did. Did you say it?
Second, yeah.
Right. Agenda item 18, ordinance number 14-23, first reading for some revisions to our golf cart ordinance to be in compliance with the new state law.
Thank
Chief?
you, Mayor. Ordinance 1423, an ordinance of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, amending the Code of Ordinances at Chapter 46, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Section 46-2, use of golf carts on designated village streets to conform this section to recent changes in state law regarding age and form of identification for golf cart operators on public streets, providing that each and every other subsection in Chapter 46 shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. Sorry, I should have put you before artificial turf. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, like Keith said, the new state statute, in regards to our golf cart ordinance, there are two changes that you can see. I gave you, everyone should have the handout. The only two differences, and to be honest, one of them is very minor, it's wording. The current regulation said golf cart operators must be a minimum of 16 years of age. It actually goes 18 years of age unless you possess a valid learner's driver's license or valid license. So it's basically saying the same thing, but in a different manner. And then the second, from our current regulation, it says must be in possession of a valid U.S. driver's license at all times while operating a golf cart. The new state statute says 18 or older must possess a valid form of government-issued photo ID at all times while operating a golf cart on public roads. Everything else in regards to no standing on the golf cart, the number of occupants must equal the number of seats on the vehicle, that stays the same. All golf carts must be equipped with efficient brakes, reliable steering apparatus, safe tires, rear mirrors, reflection, warning devices, front and rear. Golf carts operated between sunset and sunrise or on designated roads and streets must be properly equipped with headlights, brake lights, turn signals, and windshield. And then the last one is operation of golf carts between, that's it, number 7, I'm sorry. Yep, I don't know why I did it twice, but. So it's, like I said, it's the only two difference from the state statute. The Village of Tequesta actually kind of had some foresight on this back in 2013, where the state statute used to be 14 years of age. Our ordinance asked for it to be 16 and licensed. So ours, it's minor change on our end to be in compliance with the state law.
Council, any comments or questions?
Yes. Our golf carts now, I understand the changes and what we need to do with this, but maybe a bigger question is, I went back and I reviewed the citizen survey that we had, resident survey, and the comments regarding golf carts were about 50-50. Some people think it's great. They wanted to expand it. Other people thought it was a safety issue, which a lot of that was addressed. I think has been addressed with younger kids, and they were more. So it was more community-initiated complaints and calls versus officers stopping somebody. The comment I hear all the time is, why don't we have golf carts throughout the entire village? And I understand that's not what we're here to discuss, but why do we have it that way? Why is it only in the country club? Why isn't somebody on this side of Tequesta precluded from driving a golf cart?
But they can have one.
Well, I mean, so state law allows a local government to designate certain local roads. You have to do not a traffic study, you have to do a study and make a determination that the road is safe for golf cart operation. Where we are today is that's been done on the roads in the country club. My recollection was the last time this was discussed, I don't know, a couple years ago now, the big issue is golf carts going over the Tequesta Drive Bridge, and there's blind spots and there's nowhere for a golf cart to go if a car went rogue or something, and there's nowhere to go other than over the side, if you can even get over the railing. So the safety determination has not been made for any other roads. I mean, that's where we are.
Okay.
I guess that's the short answer to.
Yeah. We have golf carts, and then there's low-speed vehicles that can't exceed 25 miles an hour. So I think a whole other issue, because there's a lot of feedback that I have received on this issue about why don't we have golf carts throughout the whole village, and I met with the chief about that, or we had a conversation on another issue, and it kind of dovetailed into that, and the village manager as well. I think we need to do this. Obviously, we need to do this golf cart ordinance, but I think this is not the last time we're going to hear about golf carts in the village. I know you guys have been on here a lot longer than I have been, and so it happens all the time. Yeah. So thank you for answering the questions of why we have it only in the Tequesta Country Club.
Just to elaborate a little bit on what Keith has said, we did that study back in 2019, so it was right before I got here. I got here as it was done. I think Ms. Brandon was on that council as well. We looked at Tequesta Drive and allowing that. What the study showed, and I'm sending that to you guys tonight, is that the maximum speed or the speed of traffic is too high to allow the safety of golf carts on there. So it has, don't quote me on this, it's in the study, you have to be within 85th percentile of a certain speed in order to allow that per state statutes. And our speed on Tequesta Drive is too fast to allow for that. So it has to be within like 10 miles an hour, and we're above that. So in that recommendation from McMahon, they had recommendations that we could try to slow speed down. We can try to put speed humps on Tequesta Drive. We could try to make 10-foot wide sidewalks on Tequesta Drive, which would, you start getting pretty expensive when you want to redo all of our sidewalk. So they made some recommendations. At the time, it was a little expensive for council to take that jump. I think it was like $100 and something thousand just because the idea was to try to extend it to the church, to get the kids to that church or to the daycare on Tequesta Drive from the country club, and it's just too costly for us to look at that. So you can take a look at the study. We can always have a more in-depth conversation about how to get there, but it would take some time and money to do that, so we can slow the traffic down on Tequesta Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. I've seen some, I'm not a neighborhood watch kind of guy, I leave that to parents and law enforcement, but I've definitely seen some, typically on the weekend, some pretty reckless stuff on golf carts in the club, in the country club. So I think this is a good thing. I mean, they're having fun and all that, but there's obviously some pretty big safety concerns there. Like you said, I think it's going to be a 50-50. It's going to aggravate some people, and the other 50% will think it's a great idea. But I think it's a good idea.
That sounds about right. The study that was looked at and the cost of budgeting a wider sidewalk from the country club south entrance to, what is that road next to First Pres, kind of in that area right before the bridge. Because obviously there's a lot of residential there. Bermuda Terrace is county, so we have no regulation over that. it was a huge chunk of money, and we were looking at rebuilding reserves, trying to get roads on a plan financially, so just the priority of that. Chief, remind me though, can golf carts or low-speed vehicles, if they have a tag, they can go over the bridge?
Right,
Because
if
we
they have a
see them at
tag.
Constitution, they just have to have a tag. They
You
can't
know
go past the railroad tracks though.
You can't get on
I
to
didn't have-
35
Right.
mile an hour.
Don't you have to have like a special windshield and a few other things too?
Yeah, there's certain things,
Yeah.
windshield, seat belts, you know, it's kind of similar to vehicles. We've actually put the post ourselves, the clerk's office has. And just so you all know, Jeremy and I have had a conversation in regards to doing the training once, you know, this passes for Halloween. When we see people out there with the golf carts, we're kind of going to be giving out some handouts with the new laws and kind of just keeping them from an education standpoint. But yeah, for our low-speed vehicles, and if you notice, there's a lot more low-speed vehicles because Jeremy knows I'm one that I'll see when I'm looking for the license plate. It has to be registered, insured, and all that. So we do have an uptake in that.
I see the feedback I get is, yeah, everyone wants us to expand the golf cart usage, which I think is great, but they are starting, I think, to realize they just need to go through the process of getting the tag and making sure, and then it should be fine. I don't think it'll ever go over the railroad tracks for obvious reasons. My only thing, I mean, that's great if the state wants to, you know, kind of meet us and be a little more aggressive. For me, it just comes down to regulation. I know a lot of our youth, and they know Miss Laurie. For me, it comes down to parenting too. You know, how do you guys as law enforcement reach parents? Because when I find out that a certain golf cart was taken home by the police back to the house, and they spoke to parents, and then literally those kids are in the golf cart 3 nights later laughing, Miss Laurie, did you hear what? I'm like, yeah, you're on it. But again, that's not me. Those are not my children. So for me, I think you guys just have a big hurdle on how you want to approach this with the state, trying to regulate stricter laws in place. I think this comes down from Jacksonville area, because I know a lot of the newer communities are building with golf cart paths, and then it's just becoming more eyeballs on the golf carts and safety. I actually have no problem if a teenager wants to drive, as long as they're being smart, you know, but unfortunately we have those ones that are going to ruin it for everybody. And there has been an incident where it caused head trauma, and I don't know if anybody was here for that. I know some of you guys have moved in since then, and that was very traumatic for the community. So I think those of us who are here for that, it's that still sits. Yeah, that's it.
I have no comment. Any public comment? All right, can I get a motion?
So moved?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, agenda item 19, consider adoption of an engagement letter for legal representation in PFAS litigation.
So as you all know, the village has both a water plant and a fire department. And I'm sure everybody's aware of the recent litigation nationwide against various chemical companies regarding PFAS chemicals. And don't ask me to recite what PFAS stands for, I don't recall, but it's basically the forever chemical that will never go away, and it's often there's a chemical that fire departments use to put out certain fires, and it may be used in training, and there are other applications, but when you have water wells and potable water distribution systems that can get contaminated from those chemicals, there are obvious health issues that go with that. There is a current nationwide, very large class action litigation going on with, DuPont is one of the chemical companies. There are others. There are, as tends to happen with these, there are settlement negotiations going on. In some of the studies that have been done that are attached to some of the settlement discussions, TeQuest has actually been identified as a potential claimant because of our situation. We have been solicited over the course of the past year or so by a consortium, a representative of a consortium of law firms who are handling for a number of clients, representing them in this PFAS litigation, whether their clients are actually looking towards a trial, or whether they're just looking to get their settlement taken care of. So we've been solicited. I've talked with the representative of the consortium a number of times. I've spoken with staff a number of times in terms of, are we doing testing? Do we know where we are? And I think even the utility director tonight indicated in her report there's testing going on. But, the window for making a claim is open, and it will not be open forever. So, these folks they've sort of become their own experts in handling these matters. I brought this before you for your consideration. The proposed representation would be on a contingency basis, which means the village pays nothing out of pocket if they're successful in closing a settlement for the village based on our PFAS exposure through our water plant and whatever our fire department's been doing. The fee would be 25% of what our settlement funds would be. So, I bring this to you for your consideration, that they're not the only group in the game. I have not proactively sought anybody out to represent us. As I said, this is a solicitation. They reached out to us because we have been identified in some of the technical settlement documents as being an entity that testing will need to verify it, but that we may be entitled to some settlement funds. So that's the genesis of this. That's how it got to me, and that's how it got to you. It's for you to consider at this point if you want to engage this group or do nothing at this point, or whatever you want to do. But that's why it's been brought to you tonight, and that's how it got this far.
Council?
I mean, I'm in favor of it. I don't think we have anything to lose. It's on a contingency fee arrangement. If this might possibly is our only bite at the apple, and if we are, a qualified plaintiff here, then I think there's no harm in doing it.
I agree as well. I think the contingency fee of 25% is reasonable, and I think appropriate.
Is that statutory fee? Is that their fee, or is
That's
that
their
a
fee.
set fee?
That's what they put in their engagement letter.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. In the event that something does happen sooner rather than later, I'd rather to have our representation in place. So I'm okay with this.
Then actually, can I piggy one more comment? Is that, would you, and I know you don't do this type of litigation, but do you think 25% is probably typical for this type of class action?
Yeah, I don't think it's outside the realm
Okay.
of what would be considered reasonable.
Okay.
So overall, I'm fine with it, but since you are our legal attorney, do you recommend we go forward?
I have no objection to
Okay.
using these folks. This consortium, it's kind of interesting. Their representative who has reached out to us is from a firm in Tampa. The two firms who are sort of handling the litigation, one is in Tennessee and the other is in Connecticut. It's a really interesting dynamic on how this group has put themselves together. But, from what I've looked at, both of the firms that are part of the engagement letter are experienced in dealing with environmental law issues and this particular issue recently. Seem experienced and qualified, so I have no objection. I don't think we'd be misrepresented by this group. I think they know it appears to me they know what they're doing with this, and this is pretty technical and specialized
We all know how
stuff.
fun environmental law is.
Indeed. So.
The person that I think, made the introduction. I did not meet with them or speak with them, but I know that they were at the Florida League of Cities conference. So I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming they've been reaching out to a lot of municipalities. I had the same question about the 25% plus cost, if that's typical. Is there, I mean, their costs can be open-ended. I don't know if in a contract like this with multiple firms, if it's possible to get like unit rates for the cost that they list that they would charge.
I can
Or is
ask.
that unheard of? 'Cause it's so open-ended there for me.
Yeah, I can ask the question. Like I said, that this is sort of them coming to us as opposed to us reaching out to anybody. And I didn't negotiate any of the provisions. They just, based on the discussions, said, send me your engagement letter and we'll go from there. So I didn't want to presume that we were going to do anything and start trying to negotiate anything. But if that's the council's direction, I'm happy to do that.
And then is it typical for multiple firms to team up like this?
This
on
is
a
an
big
interesting
litigation.
This is an interesting one with this dynamic. Like I said, I've never seen one structured like this before, especially where you've got, I mean, really all over the East Coast. You got from Connecticut to Tennessee and then Mr. Kreisman, who's the person that was at the Florida League, is from a firm in Tampa, and he kind of represents the firms doing the litigation. So, no, I can't say this is typical. This is unique, I think, but it's a unique lawsuit too. So.
A lot of what they're doing, I did work for a settlement administrator for 3.5 years. A lot of experience with class action lawsuits, and either the class is represented by whoever's at, but these type of individuals will do a lot of the legwork for you. So while they may be environmental lawyers, they also are providing a service of really kind of being your claim representative, like a builder's rep, if you're looking at something from that perspective. So, and 25% is more than reasonable for the services. Some people take up to 40. Some of the people that do this take up to 40 and 50%. So, and they know it. They know the process. They know the documentation that's needed. Otherwise, staff is going to do it. We want to, or Keith will do that or something. So that's why I think this is a good thing, because I think it's below market for what similar services when I was in the industry for 3.5 years. So I think this is fine. I'm comfortable with this because they will do all the work for us. It's almost like they're more our administrator for this than our representation based on what I read through here. But we are already represented by legal counsel for the class. So looking out for everybody's best interest, but they'll do all the legwork for us, it seems to be.
Okay. And then do we know, has the county or any other Palm Beach County municipalities retained this firm, or have they retained other firms?
I do not know.
I feel like I'd like to have that. Personally, I'd like to kind of get a better pulse. I mean, just so I am in favor of maybe not this specific firm. Maybe I am. I don't know right now. I'm in favor of this. I've been poking and prodding Jeremy and Keith for a very long time now, making sure we don't miss out on something like this because of, this is a really big issue that's going to be coming down pretty hard, I'm assuming. But yeah, I feel like they're the only people that reached out. You can do a quick Google search, and there's a lot of firms that I've found that are representing people for PFAS contamination and have won huge cases against huge companies. So I'm like, do we need to do a little more research? Do we need to see what the rest of the county is doing?
For sure, there are others. As I said, we were solicited. They reached out. So I'm bringing it to you because they're the only ones that have at least contacted me. So that's why I brought it to you. But I haven't done anything more proactive than bring you what has been solicited.
Is there, do we have time to do some more research and wait till the next council meeting, or
I can try and find some more information between now and the November council meeting. I mean, some of the dates to opt out of settlements are fast approaching, like next month. I don't know if we would be in a position that you'd want to opt out of a settlement and go it on your own. That's
no,
a bigger animal.
Definitely not suggesting that.
I would stay a part of the class.
Yeah.
And then we could figure out
right.
a
So some of those
representation
opt-out dates are imminent.
Yeah.
But if the council's not worried about leaving the class, then there's a little more time.
Yeah, I would recommend we stay in the class.
That's kind of where I'm leaning to.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this.
So if
Yeah, but do we have time to the next council meeting, yes or no?
If that's the case and you're not concerned about opting out of the class,
Can't we
then
fly representation at any time?
This coming back, bringing this back in November, it will not be, we will not be locked out of anything. Understand, I think that one of the opt-out dates will be before our November council meeting. But again, if you're not interested in doing anything but staying in the class, then
Yeah.
going past that opt-out date's not gonna harm us.
Does staying in the, I mean, this is a tricky one because, like Marjorie said, EPA, we don't even know. They don't even have their formal requirements on what tests they're going to require. Isn't it still a recommendation?
Right.
So we don't have our test results back either.
No,
Could
and I've
there
told
be
them,
a condition where we end up not wanting to be in the class and think we have, I mean, I just don't know. I'm not educated enough to know.
I don't know what our
With
test
whatever
results,
the EPA is going to rule versus what our test results come back as. We know we've been patiently waiting for those. We've tested it quite some time ago. Could that change our position here?
I mean, if you opt out of the class, then you're essentially saying you want to go on your own and litigate on your own. That's a whole different animal
Yeah.
than what I've brought you tonight. That you pretty much would need legal support to litigate those environmental issues by yourself as Village of Tequesta versus
DuPont.
Well,
That should be fun.
Well, but I guess my point is, regardless of what the test results come back, it's best for us to stay in the class no matter what.
I think
Seems
so,
to me,
yeah.
Unless you want to quintuple your legal budget, and it may be more, the idea here would be to take advantage of the settlement opportunity, have whatever claims we need to file filed. I think these folks can also assist with testing if need be, and just get us through the settlement process and collect whatever settlement funds may come our way, because again, I have no idea what the test results are actually going to show and what other final rules may come down. So this is sort of PFAS litigation light.
Okay.
As opposed
I would
to
recommend staying in the class, and that way we can not take action on this retainer agreement, but staying in the class so we don't have to worry about opting out.
Yeah.
Because like Mr. Davis said, it would cost us. It would
Yeah.
cost us our- it would
I
cost us
had
our
to
entire
ask
operating
because,
budget.
I mean, I understand that, but I'm like, what does it mean though if, we don't know what the EPA guidelines are yet. We don't know what our testing results. I'm like, so is that going to weigh either way? I had to ask because
Yeah,
I want
it
your
is.
recommendation and your recommendation.
As long as we stay in the class, I think we don't have to take any jump to anything
Yeah,
tonight.
so is everyone in favor of doing a little more research, seeing what the county, municipalities locally are doing? Because
Sure.
Stewart's dealing with it too.
Sure.
Are they, like, who are they? Are they,
happy to get you some more information and bring that back to you in
Yeah,
November.
'cause they might be the right guys. I think we just want to make sure. So, can I get a motion? So I guess oh, I'm sorry. Thank you guys. Public comment. Harold has his hand up first.
Go ahead, Tom.
So, Mayor, I think you're wise to ask these questions that you've been asking, but one of the questions I had would be, if you sign a document like this for council for being in the class, what happens if your testing comes back and you don't have any PFAS?
Yeah, then it may be that the projected settlement participation changes, and if we end up getting nothing,
Right there.
they pay nothing, and then they get nothing. It's I mean, they're taking on a contingency fee basis. They're taking the risk in that regard. And if it turns out we have test results that show everything's good, then they took the risk, and we walk away, and they walk away, and that's that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Harold.
Harold Taylor, 13 Chapel Court. I take a magazine called Engineering News Record, and they've had quite a few articles about PFAS over the past year or two. There are lawsuits, I think, on the national scale. I don't know what this organization is looking at, just Florida or whatever. But PFAS is almost everywhere. It's used in firefighting foam. It's embedded in clothes, anything that needs to be waterproof, so it is everywhere. But I think we should research a little further on how many different law firms have filed suit against places like DuPont. It's fairly extensive, I think. And there may be better ways to address the issue than just with this. If it's a local type firm in just Florida, I think we ought to look at a national scale.
Thank you. All right, any other public comment? All right. Thank you for reminding me about that. Can we get a motion?
It's almost 9, I get it.
Getting foggy now. Can I have a, I guess the motion would be to just further research or deny this?
I mean, honestly, if there's council consensus, I understand the direction that you want. You want this additional information on, you know, what other litigants may be doing and who's representing who and what other options you have in terms of settlement class representation. If that's an accurate statement of what the council's looking for, and that's what you're all in favor of, I understand, and I'll bring this back next month.
Okay.
Or you understand my intent, yes, correct.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote then or no? 'Cause we're postponing it.
I'm fine with council consensus on that, and
Okay,
then we'll
great.
bring this back next month.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 20, consider approval of agreement for building official, plans reviewer, and inspection services with Diversified Building Department Management Corp.
So if I will, I'll take both of these. Number 20 and 21 are very similar. These are agreements that we have. As you know, Jose is leaving the village. Similar to most municipalities, providing a backup service for our new building official, especially with the transition period. We have put an RFP out for building official services, building inspection services, and plan review services. We got 3 bidders back. Diversified Building Services was the low bidder. The second contract is for plan review services with Sunshine Building Inspection, which is Jose Rodriguez's company. That will help us with the transition between the 2 building officials, having Jose still around and viable. As you guys know, we have some redevelopment over on Beach Road. The plans for 250 are coming. So I think, you know, both of these are backup services as needed, hourly basis. We don't use them, we don't pay them. That's the way these services are. So these are backup services. We have to take both of them individually as a vote, but that's the summary of both of those.
Okay.
Just a question with respect to item 21, that's Jose's services. The village, I'm assuming, does not have any policy or anything saying that doing business immediate, there's not a cooling off period when an employee leaves to where we can retain them?
There is for council members. There, for employee, I think we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah, none of you, like if one of you resigned, you couldn't do any work for the village, I think, for 2 years.
Okay.
But,
2 or 1?
Thank you. I just would know at a director level, I wasn't sure.
1 or 2 years.
Just wanted to confirm that, so thank you.
Oh, no, I don't have any comments. Just the fact that it's on an ad needed basis, you know, I think it's fine.
I second everything that's been said.
I have no comments. Any public comment? Okay, so on agenda item 20, which is the agreement with Diversified Building Department Management Corp., can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, agenda item 21, which is approval of agreement with Sunshine Building Inspection LLC. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, last but not least, any other matters?
Yeah, I'm bringing this up now because I didn't want to go back, but I wanted to just clarify a vote earlier this evening on the Turnberry, the dock. I voted in the opposition, not because I don't support what we were doing. I didn't like the inclusion of requiring a the mangrove, professional mangrove trimmer. I support that action, support the variance. I just was not in favor. I thought it was excessive based on what I read from the permit and DEP, that they weren't requiring it, that they were comfortable with it. I thought we could be comfortable with it as well. So I just wanted to clarify for the record why I voted in opposition for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Painter, anything?
I have nothing.
Vice Mayor?
I'm good, ma'am.
One question, when is Jose's last day?
Tomorrow.
Are we doing anything?
He doesn't want anything done. He said he would, he's told Merlene he doesn't want anything.
Sounds like a surprise party.
Are you trying to wink at us like nothing?
Is he gonna be here all day?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, only other item I had is, did council want to considering workshopping, adult arcades and how they're addressed in our code? It's becoming quite the issue. I know, Palm Beach Gardens had to close down a couple, so there are many adult arcades that are operating as illegal,
Gambling.
yes.
Do we have any in the village to us currently?
Not
that
that
we're
I'm
aware
aware
of.
That
of.
we're aware of, right?
So, and I think, our code does not address adult arcades?
Code addresses adult entertainment, but I'm not sure that that's the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Definitely not the same thing.
Although you could sneak adult entertainment
So,
into the arcade night.
Yeah, I think we may be, no, we actually do address that. I need to,
Do you want to look at it?
if I recall, there's fairly
need to-
robust
I need to get ahead of
regulations
that.
about that sort of thing. I'm trying to remember what zoning district that's in. I'm gonna guess it's either mixed use or C3. Let's see, let's do arcade.
You want to just, want to do some research, Keith, and I
Let's
can
do
provide,
that.
I can provide the council with something, and then we can have the discussion whether we want to put it on a workshop or not. That way.
Yeah, we have a definition for it. So yeah, there is code in our code that deals with it. Here we go. So in the C2 district, indoor amusements including bowling, pool, billiards, video game arcades, and similar amusements are a special exception use. And
In just C2.
In the C2 district. And then that term is defined 78 definitions. Arcade, establishment, room, place, or business location where they're available to the public more than three, this is coin-operated or token-operated amusement devices, where a fee is charged for the operation of the device. So that's how it looks like we define it.
Well, I think, could you?
So we do have some language about arcades, and that might have contemplated, Space Invaders and
Yeah, that's
Frogger.
That would be. I
back
think
in
that's
the
where
day.
we were headed with it. But with what we're seeing currently happening in the community, I think there's got to be a more robust, more
Yeah.
definitive.
So yes, you do have arcade language in your code and use permissibility in C2 as a special exception. I don't think that's what it contemplated. However, we all know how creative people can be.
But your opinions were covered in relation with everything that's going on right now?
Oh, no, my opinion is it might be something worth talking about.
Okay, so right.
Yeah.
So
I'm
is
in
council
favor
in
of
favor of
that.
workshopping it?
I am in favor
Okay.
of it. Yes.
Great. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Did Jeff respond to you on this?
I think it will. Okay.